Chapter 2018 Escaped. Emperor Bai was perfectly fine, Lung Wuxia said. How could it be? The savage man looked in disbelief. Lord Fun from Holocaust sect was also from ancient times. In terms of power they were compatible. But Lord Fun was severely injured by Emperor Bai, and he had to recover in seclusion for so many years. Emperor Bai's power. Before Lord Fun went into seclusion, he once said that Emperor Bai was unrivaled in this era, where the universe was restrained greatly. Unless there was any superb existence in the top 10 from the ancient war back then who woke up, they might stand a chance to beat Emperor Bai, Lung Wuxia said. The savage man's eyes dilated in shock when he heard that. The top 10 superb existence from the ancient war? He himself would have to look up to such existence. For instance, Emperor 13 who appeared before. He didn't even have the courage to compete against him back in ancient times. Due to the restriction in the second era, he wasn't as fearful of Emperor 13 as before. The reason why Emperor Bai is powerful is because he is an inverse cultivator. Sword Emperor is an inverse cultivator as well. He is naturally extraordinary, Lung Wuxia said. Humph. No matter how impressive Sword Emperor is, we definitely can't let him leave alive as he barged into 3 Emperor World. Although it's a pity that we didn't kill him this time, it's okay. In no time they'll reappear again soon. By then, we will have another chance to kill them again, the blood man said coldly. The savage man nodded heavily. Lung Wuxia seemed to be quiet, and she didn't comment much, but her eyes were glistening. Jian Wushuang. Lung Wuxia chanted his name in her heart. In a spacious void in 3 Emperor World, Virum, the void was distorted, and a space-time tunnel appeared out of nowhere. Then, there were 4 figures that leapt out of the space-time tunnel. The 4 figures were naturally Jian Wushuang, and the other 3 great emperors. The 4 of them finally let out a breath of relief when they arrived in the void. Jian Wushuang, Abysmal Saint Master, Great Emperor Ji Luo, and Emperor Jiu Qiao looked at Jian Wushuang simultaneously. There was astonishment, admiration and gratitude across their eyes. Even Abysmal Saint Master, who harbored deep-seated resentment against Jian Wushuang, looked at him as such too. They knew clearly that it was uncertain if they could flee if it wasn't because of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, are you really okay? Great Emperor Ji Luo couldn't help but ask. One should know that Jian Wushuang had been hemmed in by 6 great emperors for 8 breaths' time. They would have been killed long ago if they were to fight for such a long period. But Jian Wushuang. Don't worry. I'm okay. Jian Wushuang smiled. He was telling the truth. His divine body was fine, but he used up some divine power. The 6 great emperors' attacks were extremely ferocious, especially the beast-like bald man. The power of his axe was powerful. When it hit Jian Wushuang, his divine body was severely injured. Even after the 5 gem weakened it tremendously. However, with the perfect chaotic divine body, he could instantly recover his divine body. Hence, he looked perfectly fine all the time. But in actual fact, the earlier pitched battle wasn't easy for him either, because he had spent almost 30% of his divine power, which equaled the amount of divine power for him to reorganize his divine body. Fortunately, the besiegement only lasted for 8 breaths of time. If it were to have been dragged on longer, his divine power would be completely used up in at most 20 breaths' time. Without divine power, his divine body couldn't be recovered in an instant. My defensive power is a little weak. Although I already have 5 gem armor, I didn't have any defensive secret skills. The immemorial celestial body. Jian Wushuang's eyes were glowing. Immemorial celestial body was the strongest defense secret skill of the ancient tribe. Once he cultivated the first volume successfully, my divine body would improve tremendously. By then, the damage that he would have when he underwent a similar besiegement would be much smaller. In other words, the divine power spent would naturally be less, and the rate of survival would increase. It was a pity that he was slightly behind for the secret skill. Jian Wushuang. There was a low voice. The one who spoke was Abysmal Saint Master. Jian Wushuang looked at Abysmal Saint Master, and he could see Abysmal Saint Master's expression looked rather complicated. He shared great resentment with Abysmal Saint Master. But then, it could be said that Jian Wushuang had saved Abysmal Saint Master. I, Abysmal, have never owed anyone any favor. Today you did a favor for me. From today, no matter what happens in eternal chaotic world in the future, I will never make trouble with you, Abysmal Saint Master claimed. Oh, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and then he nodded faintly. He had never really liked Abysmal Saint Master, and they had been feuding. However, the grudges they had held against one another weren't serious. After all, Abysmal Saint Master had never really hurt him. Then they were assigned to be in the same troop. It could be said that their lives were tied on the same string. Hence, they naturally had to lend a helping hand to one another. We just went through a ferocious battle. Let's find a place to rest up first, Jian Wushuang said. The other three great emperors nodded. During the earlier battle, Abysmal Saint Master and Great Emperor had been fine, but Emperor Jiu Qiao was severely injured. Then, the four of them had immediately found a place to rest up. Emperor Jiu Qiao shared what had happened with Emperor Bai and the other higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance via his doppelganger. When the great emperors heard that the four of them had been attacked by 6 great emperors, they were terrified. They only relaxed when they found out that they had fled successfully. At the same time, they were astonished at the ability that Jian Wushuang had displayed. He hadn't died, even though he had been hemmed in by 6 great emperors. Besides Emperor Bai, there was no one else among the great emperors from Sanctuary Alliance who were capable of doing the same. Then, they had finally understood why Emperor Bai would pick Jian Wushuang to join the expert troop. It was not only because he was in a lower realm and easier to carry out tasks, but it was also because his unique ability to take attacks and being unkillable were extremely useful to the expert troop. For instance, it was because of Jian Wushuang's capability that the expert troop had headed off a disaster. Jiu Qiao, tell Abysmal Saint Master and Jian Wushuang to take the time to visit Imperial Cabinet after you recover. The Imperial Cabinet should be where the deepest secret of the Dark Millstone is. It is highly likely that it is where the ways to control the Dark Millstone and the surrounding Great Formation are stored. Yes, Emperor Jiu Qiao nodded solemnly. Chapter 2019 Suppress. In Three Emperors' World, Jian Wushuang and the 3 great emperors had rested for more than half a month. Jian Wushuang's divine power had been completely recovered. As for Emperor Jiu Qiao, he had a large amount of treasure, including some extremely precious elixirs. Hence, he had almost recovered completely as well. Then the 4 of them set out again. According to the route that we found from Silver-Winged God Mansion Master, the 4 of them departed to Imperial Cabinet straight away. From Silver-Winged God Mansion to Imperial Cabinet, the journey was quite far. The 4 of them were very careful, and they wouldn't get into any trouble on the way. They didn't make any stopover, but they had used a year's time to get to their destination. This is Imperial City? The 4 of them stood in the void as they looked down at a huge city in front of them that was engulfed in a great formation. The city was located in the deepest end of the vast ocean. Its location was extremely remote. If there weren't Silver-Winged God Mansion Master route instructions, it would be difficult for the 4 of them to find the place. According to Silver-Winged God Mansion Master, Imperial Cabinet is located within the Imperial City. However, the Imperial City is a place where all elites in Three Emperors' World gather. It is widely known as a cultivation sanctuary. Every cultivator from all over Three Emperors' World would figure a way to enter the Imperial City. On top of that, any experts who are above chaotic realm level are qualified to enter the Imperial City. Great Emperor Ji Luo continued. Speaking of which, besides Jian Wushuang, any one of us would catch the attention of any experts from Three Emperors' World as soon as we enter the Imperial City, Emperor Jiu Qiao said. The 4 of them became silent. They had found out previously that Imperial City was completely engulfed in a great formation. They could only enter the Imperial City via the ordinary entrance. However, the expert troop with 3 great emperors would definitely catch the attention of the higher-ups in Three Emperors' World if they were to enter directly. It was no different from walking right into a trap. Ji Luo, can't you think of any way to enter Imperial City? Abysmal Saint Master asked. No. Great Emperor Ji Luo shook her head and replied. If we were in Imperial City, which is within the formation, I might have been able to find a way to create a space-time tunnel that ignored the Great Formation after given time to study. But it would be impossible for me to ignore the Great Formation to enter the Imperial City. On top of that, even if I could, would you dare to enter just like that? Abysmal Saint Master was stunned. That was true. Imperial City was the supreme sanctuary in Three Emperors' world. There were countless experts within, and there were definitely many great emperor-level experts. Even if they entered the Imperial City in silence, the great emperors in the city would most likely notice them. Every way doesn't work. What should we do? Unless the three of us stay outside and let Jian Wushuang enter Imperial City alone? Emperor Zhou Qiao couldn't help but say. Then Jian Wushuang suddenly spoke. I have a solution, but the thing is, the three of you will be put to great inconvenience. I wonder if the three of you are willing to go ahead and share. The three great emperors immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took out Blood Mountain sword and put it before the three great emperors. What do you think of my sword? The three of them looked at Blood Mountain sword, and Abysmal Saint Master answered. The sword is powerful. It could be considered extremely strong among chaotic divine treasures. I can feel that it has a great space for growth. However, what does this sword have to do with what we are talking about? Great Emperor Ji Luo and Emperor Zhou Qiao were confused too. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. It seems that even Abysmal Saint Master can't tell. To be frank with you, my sword is not only an attack divine weapon, it also possesses suppress power. Suppress? This sword is a suppressing treasure? The three great emperors were shocked. Suppressing treasure was extremely rare in Eternal Chaotic World, but it did exist. However, suppressing treasure had a unique aura, and it was easily determined. Some could even tell if a suppressing treasure had any expert suppressed within. However, when Jian Wushuang took out his sword, none of them could tell or feel any suppressing power. Sword Emperor, do you mean you want us to stay in your sword until you bring us into Imperial City? Great Emperor Ji Luo asked. Yes. However, it will require the three of you to go through some inconvenience. Plus, there are factors that three of you should understand. Hence, please think through it, Jian Wushuang said. The three great emperors became quiet. They, of course, understood what Jian Wushuang meant by factors. It was a suppressing treasure, and the suppressing treasure was mastered by Jian Wushuang. If Jian Wushuang were to keep them in suppressing treasure, it meant that they would be being suppressed by Jian Wushuang. Once they were suppressed, no matter how powerful they were, their lives and deaths would be controlled by Jian Wushuang. In other words, their lives would fall into the hands of Jian Wushuang temporarily. If it were during normal times or under circumstances in which they had other solutions, the three great emperors would definitely not agree. But then, yes, as soon as we can destroy the Dark Millstone, it is nothing to be inconvenienced temporarily, Great Emperor Ji Luo said. I am willing, Emperor Zhou Qiao nodded. The two of them trusted Jian Wushuang. Firstly, they were from the same team, and they had come to Three Emperors' world to fight for life in Eternal Chaotic World. Secondly, Jian Wushuang had blocked 6 great emperors alone to create an opportunity for them to flee. In other words, he had saved them earlier. Their lives were saved by Jian Wushuang. It was nothing to hand their lives into Jian Wushuang's hand temporarily. The two great emperors agreed, and they then looked towards Abysmal Saint Master. Abysmal Saint Master was different from them after all. The two of them didn't share any resentment with Jian Wushuang, and Jian Wushuang absolutely wouldn't harm them. But as for Abysmal Saint Master, I agreed. Abysmal Saint Master lifted his head, and there was determination in his eyes. At the same time, he looked Jian Wushuang in his eyes and said, Jian Wushuang, I believe that you will consider the overall situation. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Don't worry. If we were an eternal chaotic world, and there wasn't any danger, I might have an idea in my head. But now there's no benefit to me if you die. Abysmal Saint Master nodded heavily. He understood it well too. As the three of you have decided, I shall start. Please do not resist, Jian Wushuang said. The three great emperors took a deep breath and stood there in silence. They saw Jian Wushuang's sword transform into a lofty mountain and press at them. Chapter 2020 in Imperial City. The three great emperors didn't fight back. Hence, They were naturally suppressed into Blood Mountain Sword easily. When you are in Blood Mountain Sword, you can still communicate with me through consciousness. You will also be able to see whatever happens in the outside world as well. Jian Wushuang communicated with the 3 great emperors in Blood Mountain Sword. Jian Wushuang, your sword is very unique. Not only is its attack fierce, its suppressing power is not too shabby. How did you find this? Abysmal Saint Master asked. About this I can't tell you. Jian Wushuang didn't share. His body suddenly quivered and the muscles all over his body bulged. His body became much stubbier. As his muscles billowed, his skin grew tanned, and he gave out a manly vibe. At the same time, Jian Wushuang's muscles started growing as well. After a short while, Jian Wushuang's appearance had changed entirely. A scrawny, young-looking man who looked cold suddenly became a brawny man who kept a beard and was messy. He was wearing ordinary clothing as he wore a malicious smile. On top of that, he put his sword away into his Qianquan ring, and he was wearing a pair of red gloves. Even the aura on his body changed tremendously, and because unusually furious. He was just like a volcano that had accumulated boundless power. It was as though he would explode any time. Haha, I reckon no one will recognize me like this. Jian Wushuang laughed, and his laughter sounded furious too. The 3 great emperors in Blood Mountain Sword were surprised, but they understood the intention of Jian Wushuang's actions. He naturally wouldn't say much. When all the preparations had been finished, Jian Wushuang departed to the huge city engulfed in the Great Formation. At the magnificent entrance of the imperial city, there were dozens of soldiers in dark armor guarding it. Even though they were merely soldiers guarding the city entrance, all of them had reached the level of a chaotic real god. A chaotic real god could be the monarch of a holy kingdom, an eternal chaotic world. However, in the supreme sanctuary of 3 emperors' world, Imperial City, a chaotic real god was only a soldier who guarded that city entrance. Swoosh! A brawny figure that gave out a furious aura plunged from the void afar, and arrived before the Imperial City's gate. The brawny figure appeared, and there were instantly a few soldiers who came forward. Stop! The leading soldier raised his hand. Stop! How dare you block my road? Are you sick of living? The brawny figure, which was Jian Wushuang, glared like a lion eyeing his prey. The few soldiers' faces instantly grew grave, and they looked shocked. Before they said anything, there was an elder in a gray robe who flew out from Imperial City. I am Mo Su. I wonder who you are. The elder in a gray robe behaved rather humbly in the beginning. I don't care who you are. Hurry up and move aside. Don't block my way to enter the city. Jian Wushuang behaved barbarously. Aren't you too rude? You don't care about your identity? The elder in a gray robe, Mo Su, looked to be in distress. Hee, I don't care about my identity. What does that have to do with you? Jian Wushuang scoffed. I'm guessing you're here for the first time, right? The elder in the gray robe looked at him. So what if I am? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. You have something you don't know about. Whoever enters the Imperial City has to declare his identity clearly, and he has to pay a fee. The rule is set up by the higher-ups in Imperial Cabinet. No one can go against it, the elder in a gray robe said. Is it so? The old folks in Imperial Cabinet are so troublesome. Jian Wushuang replied impatiently. Forget it. My name is Asho, which means beast. As for my origins, I do not belong to any sect or cult. I do not belong to any family either. There's just me, myself, and I. I see. It turns out that you are a solo expert with no background. Chapter 2021 The Bar Fi. It's a pity that we were in a rush when we interrogated Silver-Winged Mansion Master. We didn't find out the requirements to enter Imperial Peak, Abysmal Saint Master said. It's okay. We can ask around. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, and his gaze was fixed on a bar in front of him. There were bars in any city, and the same applied in Imperial City. The brawny man that Jian Wushuang took the form of had already walked to the bar. Jian Wushuang casually sat at a table after he entered the bar. He didn't care if there was anyone else there but shouted, "Waiter! Mister!" A waiter in black working in the bar quickly came next to Jian Wushuang. The waiter in black was also a chaotic real god. Give me your best alcohol, Jian Wushuang demanded. Yes. The waiter in black waved, and there was a pot of alcohol that appeared on Jian Wushuang's table. "Enjoy, mister." Then, the waiter in black turned to leave. "Don't be in a hurry to leave. I have something to ask you." Jian Wushuang stopped the waiter in black from leaving. "Mister, how can I help you?" The waiter in black behaved rather humbly. He could tell that Jian Wushuang was an expert above chaotic realm. Naturally, Jian Wushuang wasn't someone he could afford to offend. "It is my first time here in Imperial City. I heard that there's this place called Imperial Peak in Imperial City. It is a cultivation sanctuary. I want to get there. I wonder what the prerequisites are?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Oh, just about this?" The waiter in black raised his eyebrows and answered. "Mister, there are 2 ways to get to Imperial Peak. First, reach a certain level in power, and become a deacon in Imperial Cabinet. However, the deacon in Imperial Cabinet is normally taken charge of by experts above the middle stage chaotic realm." "Tell me the second way." Jian Wushuang waved. He was merely an early stage chaotic realm. If he were to display the fighting power of one in middle stage chaotic realm, it would catch people's attention. The second way is easier. Every century, the Imperial City will have a ranking competition. The competition is carried out on 2 levels. One is chaotic real god level, and the other is for experts like yourself, early stage chaotic realm. Regardless of who you are, as long as you can be in the top 5 in the ranking competition, that is held every 100 years, you will be qualified to enter Imperial Peak for cultivation. As for how long you can stay in there, it depends on your performance in Imperial Peak. For example, geniuses who are extremely gifted, they could stay and cultivate in Imperial Peak. When they leave, they will already have joined Imperial Cabinet and became the top experts in Imperial Cabinet, the waiter in black said. "I see." Jian Wushuang was tempted. The second way to enter via ranking competition was extremely workable for him. "Let me ask you, how long is it until the next ranking competition?" Jian Wushuang asked. "It's close. It has been 95 years since the previous ranking competition. There are only 5 years left until the next ranking competition begins," the waiter in black answered. 5 years. Jian Wushuang nodded in silence. If the ranking competition had just ended not long ago, and it required another 100 years until the competition came, he definitely wouldn't wait for it. However, he could afford to wait if it was only 5 years away. Then, Jian Wushuang broke into a smile. He grabbed the waiter in black by his collar and spoke into his ear. I am going to give you a reward. There are many cultivation resources in this Qianquan ring. I'm giving them to you. Go and prepare everything for me. I want to join the ranking competition in 5 years' time." "Yes, thank you, mister." The waiter in black was thrilled in excitement after he took the Qianquan ring. He nodded politely and asked, "How do I address you, mister?" "Ima Shou," which represents a beast. Jian Wushuang roared, and his voice resounded in the bar. There were many other cultivators in the bar. They heard Jian Wushuang roar, and many creased their eyebrows, but they didn't bother. On the table next to him, there was a lady in green that scoffed. "Asho? What kind of a silly man would name himself that?" There was a handsome young man in a white robe who sat opposite the lady in green. He chuckled and replied, "Should be someone who came in from some remote areas. Look at him. He has no experience in life. He didn't even know the prerequisites to enter Imperial Peak." The two of them chatted casually. Although they lowered their voices, how could Jian Wushuang not hear it with his power? Jian Wushuang immediately put on a savage look and stared at the two of them. "You two sons of a B** cheese. What are you talking about? Do you think I can't hear you?" The faces of the young man and the lady in green changed. Son of a B** th had obviously offended them. "Asho, right?" The handsome young man stood up and he stared at Jian Wushuang with his malicious gaze. "I am from Lin family in Prefecture Tong, Lin Tianhao. This is my godsister, from C2 family in Prefecture Tong. What you said earlier. If you were to kowtow and apologize now, the two of us would let you off the hook. Otherwise what?" Jian Wushuang smirked. His smirk was as cold as a sharp blade. "Whatever Lin family, C2 family, I have never heard of them. Don't bring up all these family names to scare me. None of these family names matter to me." "You have guts. If so, don't blame me. The handsome young man, Lin Tianhao, immediately turned illusionary. Lin Tianhao took action in the bar straight away. Hung. Lin Tianhao's aura was churning. He was an expert in chaotic realm, and also only in early-stage chaotic realm. His aura was intense, and his divine power was pure. He was obviously much stronger than an ordinary cultivator in early-stage chaotic realm. Just as his figure grew illusionary, his right hand stretched forth his palm and waved. The divine power instantly burst out. Haha, just in time. Jian Wushuang let out a burst of hearty laughter. He was fearless, but he took a step forward and raised his hand to punch ferociously. Jian Wushuang, of course, intentionally reserved some strength. Even so, the power of the punch was enough for a top-tier god to take him seriously. Bang! The collision of both parties caused a deep thud. As they were in the bar, and they were in Imperial City, both parties controlled their divine power during the attack. They didn't let the divine power spread, nor did they destroy the bar. They didn't even break any tables or chairs. Humph! Lin Tianhao humphed and his palm suddenly became red. Chapter 2022 put on a full show. Lin Tianhao smacked his red palm a few times. He could control his divine power, so that the power wouldn't spread, but the mighty power that the palm brought about was terrifying. Jian Wushuang felt as though he was a volcano exploding continuously. Haha, interesting. Jian Wushuang let out a burst of hearty laughter as his hands were covered with a layer of redness. The very next moment, there was an unprecedented rage that spread from Jian Wushuang's body. King of Beasts' divine punch, first move. Roar. There was a faint roar, and a shadow of a ferocious beast appeared behind Jian Wushuang out of nowhere. His punch brought about the power of a thunderbolt and hit. As he wanted to pretend to be a barbaric, valiant man who was good with his fists, Jian Wushuang had naturally intentionally studied some punch skills intensively. He had been wandering in eternal chaotic world for so many years, and he received various secret skills. Among them there were many punch skills. Jian Wushuang found one that was not too shabby and suitable for his barbaric character, which was King of Beasts' divine punch. There were 27 moves in the punching skill. Second move. Third move. A punch followed by another. He continuously punched, and he intentionally controlled the divine power contained in every single punch. However, he still managed to pierce the space-time with ease. Jian Wushuang's barbaric punches collided with Lin Tianhao's volcanic palms. In an instant, bang, 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 the low thud resounded in everyone's ears. Under such strong attacks, both intentionally controlled their divine powers, but still caused quite a significant movement. Both of them exchanged blows in an instant in one breath time. Stop! There was a loud roar from outside the bar. Jian Wushuang and Lin Tianhao immediately stopped. Swoosh! There was a figure that appeared in the bar in a flash. The figure appeared right in between Jian Wushuang and Lin Tianhao. He was a white-haired elder who went through the transformation of the world. His long, white beard reached above his chest, and there was rage in his murky eyes. The two of you have guts. How dare you fight so ferociously in Imperial City? The elder was angry and his boundless divine might spread. His divine might already reached the level of a peak emperor god, also the top of middle-stage chaotic realm. Looking at the arrival of the elder, Jian Wushuang remained casual in manner, but he was actually shocked. Lin Tianhao and I fought for less than a breath of time. On top of that, we could control our divine power for the movement to be even smaller. But in such a short period of time, there was a peak emperor god that rushed here. Plus, I also felt a faint soul power sweep over earlier. I believe there is a great emperor who noticed the situation here. Jian Wushuang was astonished. He was astonished at how strict the guard in Imperial City was. The reason why he had intentionally provoked Lin Tianhao and fought with him was that he wanted to test the actual situation in Imperial City. But the result was far beyond his expectations. The guard in Imperial City itself is so strict. As the core of Imperial City, Imperial Peak where Imperial Cabinet was located, how much stricter could it be? Under such high alert, wouldn't he be noticed as soon as Jian Wushuang did anything? In the bar, many customers stood up simultaneously out of curiosity. In the middle of the bar, The elder was raging with anger. Jian Wushuang said casually, "It has nothing to do with me. This started it. I can't just stand here and let him hit me." The elder squinted his eyes and fixed his gaze on the waiter in black. The waiter in black had been standing to the side earlier. He watched the cause of the ferocious fight very clearly. He immediately replied, "Mr. Deacon, it is true that this Mr. took action first." The elder then cast a reprimanding gaze at Lin Tianhao. Lin Tianhao took a deep breath and bowed at the elder politely. He then said, "Mr. Deacon, I am Lin Tianhao, from Lin family in Prefecture Tong." "From Lin family?" The elder's face changed. In Three Emperors' world, there were many strong forces and families, especially families. Some ancient families were powerful and influential within imperial cabinet. For instance, Lin family was one of them. Although Lin family didn't have any peak chaotic realm leader, they had more than 4 experts in peak middle stage chaotic realm. 3 out of 4 of them were holding important posts in the imperial cabinet. Some might hold an even higher position than he did. Humph! Even if you are a disciple from Lin family, you do not behave like a rascal in Imperial City, the elder humphed coldly. But it was obvious that his tone was much calmer. "Yes, I'll remember that." Lin Tianhao nodded continuously. "All right. If both parties are fine, this ends here. Dismiss yourselves." The elder waved and then left. The bar became quiet again. Only Jian Wushuang and Lin Tianhao were left standing there. "Asho, right? I remember you. You're lucky this time. You wouldn't be that lucky next time. Aren't you joining the ranking competition in 5 years' time?" "I happen to be joining that too. By then, I won't let you off the hook," Lin Tianhao said coldly. "Haha. Come on. I'll be ready to fight with you," Jian Wushuang scoffed. Then, he grabbed the waiter in black next to him. "You take me to somewhere to stay." "Yes, yes." The waiter in black naturally followed his command. In no time, Jian Wushuang came to a secret room under the lead of the waiter in black. Although the surroundings of the room were covered in a layer of prohibition, and ordinary people wouldn't just come in as they wish, Jian Wushuang wouldn't let the 3 of them out just in case. "Jian Wushuang, aren't you asking for too much attention in Imperial City?" Abysmal Saint Master creased his eyebrows and said. The 3 of them saw what had happened earlier. Jian Wushuang did catch a lot of attention, as he was too barbaric. However, Jian Wushuang laughed at the comment. "As I am acting, I have to put on a full show. On top of that, the experts in Three Emperors' world know that we barged in. They will definitely be on high alert. Especially in Imperial City, they will definitely keep watch of every new expert. I am an expert in early-stage chaotic realm, who came to Imperial City. I reckon there will be someone already watching me the moment I enter the city. If I were to be extra careful in Imperial City, the experts in Imperial Cabinet would pay more attention, or even be suspicious of me. Now that I behaved barbarically, the experts in Imperial Cabinet won't be that suspicious of me instead." Chapter 2023 Ranking Competition. "You're right." Abysmal Saint Master and the other great emperors nodded in agreement. The experts on the highest rank in Imperial Cabinet were definitely paying attention to the unknown experts, especially those who were extremely careful and afraid to be in the limelight. Hence, it made sense if he did exactly the opposite. Imperial Peak is the core of Imperial City. We have to figure out a way to get into Imperial Peak. However, the ranking competition is 5 years away. We can only wait 5 years, Jian Wushuang said. If it's only for 5 years, we can afford to wait, Abysmal Saint Master and the other 2 great emperors said. Then they started waiting patiently. The 3 great emperors continued to stay in Blood Mountain Sword but never came out. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang utilized the 5 years to cultivate the immemorial celestial body. Immemorial celestial body would definitely be useful to Jian Wushuang if he cultivated it successfully. 5 years passed by very quickly as he cultivated. "Mr." The waiter in black from the bar entered the secret room with Jian Wushuang's permission. "It's time for the ranking competition. I'll take you there now." "All right, lead the way." Jian Wushuang let out a burst of hearty laughter. Jian Wushuang soon arrived at a huge independent space under the lead of the waiter in black. "Mr." The ranking competition among experts in early-stage chaotic realm will be carried out in this independent space. This is your identity token. The waiter in black passed Jian Wushuang a token. Thank you. Jian Wushuang smiled, and then stepped into the independent space. The independent space was boundless. It wouldn't even be a problem for a few experts in peak chaotic realm to fight in there, let alone the cultivators of the early-stage chaotic realm. There were many cultivators in the independent space, and every one of them were experts in early-stage chaotic realm. There were more than 100 people in one glance. Haha, it's quite busy here. Jian Wushuang stepped into the independent space and let out a burst of hearty laughter. His laughter reverberated through the entire independent space, and the experts in the space looked at Jian Wushuang. When they saw Jian Wushuang, whose aura was ferocious as a beast's, the experts looked surprised. Who is this? I have never seen him before. No idea. He should be an expert who just came to Imperial City not too long ago. Hehe. I know this person. His name is Ashou. He isn't famous in Three Emperors' world. It is his first time in Imperial City. However, he is barbaric in nature. I heard that he fought with Lin Tianhao from Lin family the moment he entered Imperial City. Both of them fought too. Many people immediately looked at the handsome Lin Tianhao the moment they heard that. Lin Tianhao joined the ranking competition too. Then he was standing next to the lady in green. When he noticed Jian Wushuang's arrival, there was a flash of coldness in his eyes. This B** starred is such a show-off, Lin Tianhao muttered. Don't worry about him. He is so silly. You wouldn't even know if he died, the lady in green said. Humph, don't let me fight against him later. Otherwise, Lin Tianhao's gaze grew even colder. Although the ranking competition in Imperial City happened every once in 100 years, only the top 5 were allowed to enter Imperial Peak. However, there were too many cultivators in Three Emperors' world who wanted to enter Imperial Peak. Hence, it was the reason why it would stir up a ferocious commotion during the ranking competition every 100 years. Swoosh. Suddenly, there were a few figures that appeared in the independent space. The leading person had white hair and a white beard. He was the elder that stopped Jian Wushuang and Lin Tianhao from fighting last time. The elder was a deacon in Imperial Cabinet, and he was hosting the ranking competition that day. Everyone is almost here. Let's begin. The elder looked around and his voice bright and clear. The rules for this ranking competition are the same as before. It will be segregated into 2 parts. The first round of competition would be the elimination round. Your opponent is him. The elder waved, and a brawny figure in silver armor appeared in the independent space. The brawny figure looked stoned, and there were no emotions in his eyes. He obviously wasn't a human cultivator. This is a Dao soldier? Jian Wushuang's eyes dilated in shock. He, of course, recognized the brawny figure. He was very familiar with it. The silver armor and the unique aura. It was obviously a Dao soldier from ancient times. It was a silver-armored Dao soldier. Under normal circumstances, the power of silver-armored Dao soldiers was Emperor God level. In other words, middle-stage chaotic realm level. It was stronger than the cultivators from early-stage chaotic realm at the scene. However, Dao soldier didn't know any killing tactics. Hence, its fighting power was far behind a middle-stage chaotic realm expert. What you need to do is take turns to attack. Within 10,000 miles range, fight with this Dao soldier for more than 10 breaths without being defeated. Then, you will be qualified to enter the second round. The elder waved, and there was a region engulfed in purple light cover around the silver-armored Dao soldiers. The region was about 10,000 miles. Then, everyone's expressions grew solemn. Most of them wouldn't care if they had to fight with silver-armored Dao soldier. As long as they were smart enough to not fight head-on with the silver-armored Dao soldier, but deal with it via their speed and flexibility, anyone could last for 10 breaths against the silver-armored Dao soldier. However, the difficulty became more intense when they were limited to 10,000 miles. Within 10,000 miles, it would be hard for the experts in early-stage chaotic realm to perform their speed and skills. In short, they would be on the defensive during their fight against the silver-armored Dao soldier. Let's begin. Come to the front when I call your name. The elder didn't explain much and started reading names. The first one was a lady in red, who used a red sickle as her weapon. Her power wasn't considered to be as weak among early-stage chaotic realm. However, there was too much restriction within 10,000 miles. Her speed couldn't be put to play at all. In the end, she only lasted for 6 breaths of time, and she was defeated by the silver-armored Dao soldier. The second one was worse. He only lasted for 3 breaths. The third and fourth ones failed too. Until the fifth person, he barely lasted 10 breaths against the silver-armored Dao soldiers, after putting all his skills to play. Restricted within 10,000 miles. Many people couldn't perform their skills. It is too difficult to last 10 breaths of time against the silver-armored Dao soldiers. There are 100 people, but I'm afraid there might not even be 1/3 of them who could pass the first round, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Chapter 2024 Brutal. As expected, as the cultivators went ahead one after another, there was hardly anyone who could last for 10 breaths in the fight against silver-armored Dao soldiers. Among the 3 to 4 contestants, there was only one who passed the first round. The time flew past. In the blink of an eye, the silver-armored Dao soldiers had already fought with more than half of the contestants. Next, a show, the elder called. Haha, it's finally my turn. Jian Wushuang let out a burst of hearty laughter. Before everyone's gaze, he walked forward. Everyone focused their attention on Jian Wushuang. Because Jian Wushuang's aura was so powerful, they can't belittle him. Jian Wushuang came before the silver-armored Dao soldiers, and he felt the prohibition of the 10,000 miles range. Begin, the elder said. The silver-armored Dao soldiers didn't hesitate and rushed out. Then, Jian Wushuang smiled maliciously without fear. He charged out fiercely as well. What is this guy doing? The surrounding spectators were surprised. Everyone knew that Dao soldier was powerful. Hence, no one would opt to fight a ferocious fight against the silver-armored Dao soldier head-on. They would normally rely on their own skills to drag the silver-armored Dao soldier on. It would be enough if they could drag them on for 10 breaths of time. Jian Wushuang was the first who charged at the silver-armored Dao soldier, and obviously wanted to fight it head-on. Take my punch! Jian Wushuang bellowed, and there was a bolt of divine power that soared in his hand, and became a huge fist. The silver-armored Dao soldiers punched ferociously too. Both parties fought head-on without any patterns. Bang! There was a low thud. Jian Wushuang took one step back from the impact from the collision of the terrifying power, but the silver-armored Dao soldiers didn't move at all. D***minute. This thing's punch is tough. However, I am not afraid of anyone's punch. Jian Wushuang raged furiously, and there was boundless anger in his eyes. King of Beasts' divine punch. Roar. There was a faint roar, and there was a shadow of a huge beast that appeared from nowhere behind Jian Wushuang. His punch brought about a hit as powerful as a thunderbolt. One punch was followed by another. Every punch contained the power that shook all cultivators at the scene. The silver-armored soldier had no emotions, but only knew to punch ferociously against Jian Wushuang. Bang! 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 There was a continuous collision of punches that reverberated in the independent space. There was a large amount of power that dispersed in all directions and caused a huge movement after every collision. Jian Wushuang also fought ferociously against the silver-armored Dao soldier. The people who were watching the fight looked dumbfounded. This person is so powerful. How dare he fight against silver-armored Dao soldiers with punches and strength? He didn't have the lower hand at all. With that in itself, he should be in the top 10 among the contestants in this ranking competition. Not only is he powerful, he is terrifyingly fierce and brutal. Yeah, brutal. The surrounding people nodded simultaneously. The vibe that Jian Wushuang gave was too brutal. It was so brutal that it struck fear in the others. He was simply a war chariot that elbowed and jostled its way around. He wasn't a person anyone wanted to offend. As Jian Wushuang fought with the silver-armored Dao soldiers, 10 breaths of time passed. The silver-armored Dao soldiers stopped. Although Jian Wushuang was still soaring with battle intention, he stopped too. Jian Wushuang then exited the 10,000 miles range. He exited and glanced at the other cultivators. He then broke into a smirk. A bunch of puss***s. What are you looking at? Are you afraid of me now? If you are, admit defeat if you plan to go against me in the second round. Then, I won't have to beat you up. If you don't surrender, I will defeat all of you one by one. Then Jian Wushuang walked to the side arrogantly. Although the cultivators looked upset, no one stood against him. The power that Jian Wushuang had put on display was amazing. There were very few of them who were confident in winning against him. Among the crows, the handsome Lin Tianhao and the lady in green stood side by side. Then, a young man in purple robe walked over. Brother Tianhao, where does this Asho come from? How could he be this powerful? And he could fight head-on with the silver-armored Dao soldiers. There are so many unknown experts in Three Emperors' world. Who knows where this reckless B***starred comes from? Lin Tianhao replied in disdain. Brother Tianhao, you fought with this Asho before. What do you think of his power? The young man in purple robe continued to ask. He is quite powerful. His punch skills are okay. That's all I know. After all, I only fought with him for a short instant. I didn't put all my skills to play. As for if he used all his skills, I am not sure myself. Lin Tianhao replied. I see. The young man in purple robe nodded faintly. He looked at Jian Wushuang with a tinge of fear in his eyes. This Asho is so brutal, and he is so terrifyingly powerful. I hope that I won't have to go up against him in the second round. The ranking competition continued. After Jian Wushuang, there was quite a number of cultivators that fought against the silver-armored Dao soldiers, including the handsome Lin Tianhao. Among the 100 experts in early-stage chaotic realm that joined the ranking competition, Lin Tianhao was among the few on the top. He could be said to be one of the few strongest experts. It was not surprising that he passed the first round. The first round of ranking competition ended very quickly. There were originally over 100 cultivators, but it was left with only 36 people left after the first round of the ranking competition. Among the 36 contestants, they had to fight for the 5 quotas. The rules for the second round was very easy. They would fight one-on-one after drawing lots. When the 9 final candidates were sifted out, there would be a rotation battle. Then, they could decide on the 5 strongest candidates. After drawing lots, the elder announced the first pair of opponents. The opponent that Jian Wushuang was going against in the first battle was Qiu Ming. Jian Wushuang looked around and saw the man in a purple robe who was standing next to Lin Tianhao. He is my first opponent. Jian Wushuang scoffed. The man in a purple robe looked distressed. He had been praying hard to not go up against Jian Wushuang earlier. But the moment the second round commenced, he was allocated to fight against Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2025 Torture. The second round of the ranking competition began very quickly. The experts of early-stage chaotic realm went up for their assigned battle, according to the lots they drew. Among the crowd, the man in a purple robe, Qiu Ming, retained a solemn look. Brother Qiu Ming, don't worry too much. Although Asho is powerful, as long as you do not fight head-on with him, you will have a chance to win. On top of that, Asho is a solo expert after all. He won't have any impressive secret skills. How could he win against the secret skills in Qiu family? Lin Tianhao looked at him. That's true. Qiu Ming nodded his head, and he felt more confident. Very soon, it became the battle between Jian Wushuang and Qiu Ming. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang flashed and appeared in the spacious void. He looked at Qiu Ming in a purple robe who was walking to him slowly, and Jian Wushuang broke into a malicious smile. Hurry up, don't waste time. If you are afraid, admit defeat straight away. I couldn't be bothered to fight with someone your level. Admit defeat? Qiu Ming's gaze grew cold. He flipped his hand, and there was a black spear that shined with cold light which appeared in his hand. Start. The elder who hosted the ranking competition said. Haha, come on. Jian Wushuang let out a burst of hearty laughter. Then, he plunged out like a brown bear against Qiu Ming. He spread his raging aura over Qiu Ming. Qiu Ming was terrified. He clenched the spear in his hand more tightly, and he moved just as Jian Wushuang was about to reach him. He moved just like a ghost. He leaped twice and wielded his spear. His divine power concentrated into 2 rays of light and hit Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and shattered the 2 rays of lights into pieces. Just as he leaped and wanted to hit Qiu Ming, Xiaoming dodged to the side again. D*MN. Why the hell are you moving here and there? Take a punch of mine if you have the guts. Jian Wushuang pretended to be angry. Idiot. Why would I fight head-on with you when I know that you are powerful? Xiaoming smirked coldly. After a short exchange of blows, he became even more confident. Brother Tianhao is right. This B** only knows force. The other aspects are ordinary. With the secret skills of Qiu family, in addition to my spear skills, I can totally suppress him as long as I am careful. I could even fool him. I can definitely win this battle. Xiaoming continued to move around in illusionary figures. He constantly moved away from Jian Wushuang and attacked Jian Wushuang with his spear, taking advantage of his flexibility of movement. Jian Wushuang was on the defensive all of a sudden. B****. Jian Wushuang stared with his eyes wide open, and his face red from anger. It seemed as though he was helpless against his opponent. Just as the surrounding crowd thought Jian Wushuang was going to lose, there was a glimpse of madness in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Swoosh! The spear in Xiaoming's hand became a venomous snake and attacked Jian Wushuang from behind. Under normal circumstances, Jian Wushuang would be dodging the spear. However, Jian Wushuang turned around and ignored the spear. He let the spear hit his divine body instead. Bang! There was a loud bang, and Jian Wushuang's body quivered, but he didn't step back from the impact. On the contrary, he launched continuous punches. Boy, take a punch of mine. King of Beasts Divine Punch, the 18th move. Hong! A huge fist flung at Xiaoming like a huge sacred elephant. Xiaoming obviously didn't expect that. He couldn't dodge in time, and he was hit by the punch. Poof! He spurted a mouthful of blood, and his body was like a kite with a cut line. He was flying backward powerlessly. Jian Wushuang won the battle. Humph! Son of a B****th. You thought I couldn't do anything about you. Jian Wushuang humphed coldly. He reprimanded him while he patted the spot on his chest, where Xiaoming's spear had stabbed. There was a white mark that was left by the spear. It was merely a white mark. The surrounding spectators were surprised. This man took Xiaoming's hit directly and defeated Xiaoming? Such a powerful divine body. He took Xiaoming's hit, and he wasn't injured at all. He didn't even move an inch, but immediately counterattacked and defeated Xiaoming. His divine body is so powerful. Powerful strength, powerful divine body. His only weakness is his speed. However, his overall power is terrifying. Everyone gasped in astonishment. Previously, they had thought Jian Wushuang could only be in the top 10 among the experts in early-stage chaotic realm. But now, he could at least be in the top 5. Of course, that was what they had thought. As for how powerful Jian Wushuang was, no one would know as long as they didn't show it. After defeating Xiaoming, Jian Wushuang retreated to the border of the battlefield and stood there casually in an arrogant manner. Then, the 3 great emperors in Blood Mountain Sword were teasing Jian Wushuang. Sword Emperor, how do you feel about bullying the young and inexperienced? Great Emperor Ji Luo laughed. Sword Emperor, you are so good at pretending. If it wasn't because all of us know your true power, we would really mistake you as a barbaric Sir God, who was slightly more powerful. Emperor Jiu Qiao added. However, Jian Wushuang replied bitterly, the 3 of you shouldn't make fun of me. I think all of you understand that it is even tougher to fight with these B****stards than fighting against a great emperor. Jian Wushuang was telling the truth. If he were to fight with a great emperor, he could at least fight openly without any restraint. He could expose his power openly. However, during the ranking competition he was restrained. He was trying his best to disguise himself in terms of behavior, speech, and also the power he displayed. Especially during the ferocious battles, he had to control his strength and speed to a reasonable level. It was exceedingly difficult. Such a battle was torturous to Jian Wushuang. He'd rather fight against a great emperor openly. Hold on. There are many more battles coming your way. Abysmal Saint Master smiled. That's true. Sword Emperor, the 3 of us are at too high of a realm, and we couldn't expose ourselves. We can only rely on you for this. Great Emperor Ji Luo expressed herself too. Jian Wushuang had no choice. The following ranking competition was smooth sailing. Jian Wushuang defeated another expert at the early stage chaotic realm, and became one of the top 9. Then, the one-on-one rotation battles among the 9 started. In other words, everyone had to fight with the other 8. Then they would pick the top 5 from the 9. Chapter 2026 Lin Tianhao. The rotation battles for the top 9 were ongoing. Jian Wushuang had naturally disguised himself flawlessly. Regardless of his character or power, they were perfectly concealed. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang had completed 7 battles. The result was 5 victory and 2 defeats. Such results ensured that he would be in the top 5 to enter Imperial Peak. The final battle was interesting, because his last opponent was Lin Tianhao. Just as he entered Imperial City, he argued with him. They had even fought. Then, Lin Tianhao had told him to be careful when they were to go against each other in the ranking competition. In the end, they were going to fight a battle. Brother Haoyan, you have to take care of this silly B*****. Teach him a lesson. The lady in green gritted through her teeth. The lady in green was originally in the top 9, and she could be in the top 5 with her power, so she could enter the Imperial City. However, no one had expected Ah Shou to appear from nowhere. In the end, the lady in green had been defeated by Jian Wushuang. It would be impossible if she wanted to enter Imperial Peak. She had to wait for another 100 years. Hence, the lady in green naturally held a grudge against Jian Wushuang. Don't worry, I will take revenge on your behalf. At the same time, I will vent my anger too, Lin Tianhao said. With Brother Tianhao taking action personally, this silly man could only be on the defensive. The lady in green nodded. She had absolute confidence in Lin Tianhao. Very soon, Jian Wushuang and Lin Tianhao appeared on the spacious battlefield. Hey, it's you again. Jian Wushuang crossed his arms before his chest. He was still casual in his manner. I didn't get to fight a hearty battle with you in the bar. Today we have to call victory and defeat between us. Lin Tianhao glared coldly. Alright. Come and hit me. Save your bullshit. Jian Wushuang dug his ear as he said arrogantly. You are courting death. Lin Tianhao was angry. His hands became crimson red in an instant, just like 2 volcanoes. As he slapped, there was a significant amount of flames spreading to the surrounding. The entire battlefield was a sea of fire. Back in the bar, regardless of if it were Lin Tianhao or Jian Wushuang, both intentionally controlled their strength and power, so that it didn't spread. Hence, the movement in the bar wasn't great. However, both of them held no scruples then. Looking at Lin Tianhao's palm, Jian Wushuang smirked, and then punched with his crimson fists too. The volcano-like palms collided with Jian Wushuang's fists, and there were continuous ferocious clashes. Both parties exchanged blows, and the competition was immediately white-hot. One should know that the strength and divine body that Jian Wushuang had put on display was powerful. As such, the cultivators in the ranking competition avoided fighting head-on with him. Only Lin Tianhao alone was fearless. He was the first who had the courage to fight Jian Wushuang head-on, and he didn't have the lower hand. Haha boy, I belittled you. You are quite powerful, huh? Jian Wushuang laughed. You are not too shabby. It is definite that you could enter Imperial Peak. However, it is a pity that you offended me earlier. I have to teach you a lesson. Lin Tianhao sounded cold. Just as he had said, there was suddenly a layer of crimson armor that surfaced from his body. The crimson armor was like magma in a volcano. The temperature was terrifyingly high. Then his figure grew by 1 size too. He was 3 meters tall, and his aura naturally grew tremendously too. Secret skill of golden flame, burn the mountain. Lin Tianhai slapped. His slap was like a huge aerolite surrounded with boundless flames that descended directly. The strength of the power had absolutely already reached middle stage chaotic realm, the level of Emperor God. This boy is really not too shabby. Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he performed King of Beasts' divine punch again to resist. Bang! There was a loud bang, and Jian Wushuang took a few steps back from the impact. The surrounding void was still burning in the flames. You should be proud that you were able to resist this move. But the next one, Lin Tianhao's gaze turned cold. Secret skill of golden flame, burn the earth. Similarly he slapped. It was double the power of the earlier palm. Again. Jian Wushuang looked shocked. Then he retreated without hesitation. He even exited the battlefield to join the surrounding spectators. Forget it. I am already in the top 5, and I can enter Imperial Peak. It is not necessary to fight a life-and-death battle with you. You win this battle. Jian Wushuang waved and acted generous. The surrounding spectators looked at him in disdain when they saw the scene. They could tell that Jian Wushuang had quit because he wasn't Lin Tianhao's match, and he wasn't confident that he could win against Lin Tianhao. That was the true reason why he had opted to quit, not what he had said it to be. He was extremely shameless. Lin Tianhao was angry about his action, but he had no choice. Jian Wushuang admitted defeat and retreated to outside of the battlefield. He couldn't just continue to chase after him. But in actual fact, no one knew that Jian Wushuang wasn't shameless, but the truth was just as he had said. His intention was only to enter Imperial Peak. He could already enter, so he naturally didn't need to fight with Lin Tianhao further. On top of that, the character that he was disguised as Shou had put his power on display appropriately. If he were to defeat Lin Tianhao with more skills, he would outsmart himself. Hence, he might as well give up the battle. After another few battles, the ranking competition ended. The top 5 strongest contestants were chosen. The strongest among the 5 was Lin Tianhao from Lin family in Prefecture Tong. Jian Wushuang, disguised as Shou, was one of the 5 as well. The 5 of them were qualified to cultivate in Imperial Peak. The 5 of you be prepared. I will take you to Imperial Peak now, the elder who hosted the ranking competition said. The 5 of them looked excited. Haha, Imperial Peak, I heard of 3 Emperors World's cultivation sanctuary long ago. I wonder what it looks like. Jian Wushuang laughed casually. Such an inexperienced bumpkin. Lin Tianhao glared at Jian Wushuang in disdain. Yo, Mr. Lin from Lin family, Mr. Genius Lin. You are so amazing, but you are entering Imperial Peak for the first time just like us. Jian Wushuang mocked him. Chapter 2027 Supreme Emperor Stone. Humph, we are different. Although I am entering Imperial Peak for the first time, I already know the ins and outs of Imperial Peak. Lin Tianhao humphed coldly. Oh yeah, so what? What does it have to do with me? Jian Wushuang sneered. Lin Tianhao was stunned. All right, stop your nonsense. The elder with white hair and a white beard reprimanded. All of you listen up. Imperial Peak is different from Imperial City. The rules in Imperial Peak are much stricter. In Imperial Peak, regardless of your background and identity, whoever goes against the rules in Imperial Peak will be punished. No one is an exception. So all of you had better do things according to the rules. Yes, Lin Tianhao nodded. Of course. I never get into trouble, Jian Wushuang smiled. Under the lead of the elder, Jian Wushuang soon arrived in Imperial Peak. The moment they entered Imperial Peak, even Jian Wushuang, who was experienced, gasped in admiration at the sight. In his view, there was a lofty pinnacle that was beyond his imagination. The pinnacle was at least 10,000 zhang tall. It was broad and boundless, which made one reverent. In the pinnacle, there were lofty palaces and pavilions towering in every corner. On top of the huge pinnacle, there was one exquisite black pavilion. The black pavilion was pathetically small compared to the entire pinnacle. However, the black pavilion was where the imperial cabinet, the supreme power of 3 emperors world, located. Imperial cabinet? Jian Wushuang muttered. But suddenly, his gaze was caught by the void around the lofty pinnacle. There were 3 huge statues there. The 3 statues were about 10,000 zhang tall. They were human in shape, but they looked extremely strange. On top of that, the 3 statues gave people a mysterious feeling. Every single stone on the statue contained a boundless, abstruse vibe. Hence, Jian Wushuang saw a large number of cultivators seated before the 3 statues. They were obviously comprehending there. However, the one that truly caught Jian Wushuang's attention wasn't the 3 statues, but a huge golden whirlpool in the middle of the 3 statues. Also where the 3 statues fixed their gazes. The golden whirlpool was spinning madly and giving out a boundless aura. At the core of the golden whirlpool, there was a resplendent golden light. The golden light seemed to be showing off to the universe. It was as though it was the brightest light in the universe. Even from a distance, Jian Wushuang could feel the tremendous power contained in the golden light. What is that? Jian Wushuang exclaimed in surprise. Not only him, but also the other four around him were looking at the golden whirlpool. There was a tinge of anticipation in their eyes. The elder that brought them in said, "It is the holy crystal that we three emperors' world hold the prestige of. It is said that the three emperors left it behind. Because of the holy crystal, three emperors' world is living in peace." The elder took fancy at the holy crystal too, but he didn't explain much. Holy crystal? Jian Wushuang focused. He could that the holy crystal in the golden whirlpool was extraordinary. Jian Wushuang, although I am in your sword, I can feel the boundless power that the holy crystal in the golden whirlpool carries. The holy crystal is extraordinary. You have to check on it later, Abysmal Saint Master in Blood Mountain Sword said. I know, Jian Wushuang nodded. Then, the elder took the five of them around Imperial Peak and briefed them through the cultivation's places and rules. Then, he arranged places for them to reside in before he left. Then Jian Wushuang and the other four naturally parted ways to do what they wanted to do. Jian Wushuang came before the golden whirlpool at the first instant. The golden whirlpool was huge, and Jian Wushuang felt that it was like a huge Great Formation. However, it was vastly different from Great Formation too. It was mysterious. Because of distance, Jian Wushuang had finally gotten to see the holy crystal in the golden whirlpool clearly. It was a piece of translucent crystal that was shimmering in gold. The golden crystal was unique. Not only did it contain extremely pure power, Jian Wushuang could also sense the vibe of an emperor from the golden crystal. Huh! A crystal carried the vibe of an emperor that strikes fear? What kind of a crystal is this? I have never seen it in Eternal Chaotic World. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows as he asked. Abysmal Saint Master, do any of you know this crystal? The three great emperors in Blood Mountain Sword could see the scene outside clearly. They naturally could see the golden crystal in the whirlpool. The three of them looked confused. They obviously couldn't recognize the golden crystal either. Let me ask Emperor Bai and the other great emperors from Sanctuary Alliance. Let's see if any of them can recognize the golden crystal, Emperor Jiao Qiao said. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. He knew that it was extraordinary, and it was most likely extremely important to Three Emperor World. Hence, he had to find out the actual function. There were many great emperors from Sanctuary Alliance who wandered in the ancient battlefield. They might know some things in ancient times and could recognize the golden crystal. As expected, not long after Emperor Jiao Qiao inquired, East Royal Emperor recognized the golden crystal. Everyone, there's an answer. Emperor God Jiao Qiao said. According to East Royal Emperor, the golden crystal is named Supreme Emperor Stone. It is a rare and precious gemstone from ancient times. It is extremely difficult to form the gemstone. A nail-sized Supreme Emperor Stone would need a long time to take form. On top of that, the pure power contained in a nail-sized Supreme Emperor Stone would be more than the total divine power of a Sir God expert. That is why the top sects who had powerful foundations in ancient times would use Supreme Emperor Stone in their powerful formation as a source of strength, in order to maintain the revolving formation. Besides, the Supreme Emperor Stone is born with the vibe of an emperor. Hence, it is best to use it to refine treasure with the emperor vibe. East Royal Emperor once obtained a Supreme Emperor Stone by sheer luck. He showed the Supreme Emperor Stone to my doppelganger earlier. It was really exactly the same as the golden crystal in the whirlpool. However, East Royal Emperor only got himself a little fist-sized Supreme Emperor Stone. The one we see right now. Chapter 2028 Source of Energy. Jian Wushuang, Abysmal Saint Master and Great Emperor Ji Luo became quiet, but there was a great commotion from the bottom of their hearts. The Supreme Emperor Stone in the golden whirlpool in front of them was too huge. It was a total of 100 zhang tall. It simply equated to a huge mountain. According to East Royal Emperor, a nail-sized Supreme Emperor Stone contained pure divine power of a Sir God. Just how terrifyingly great was the pure divine power contained in the Supreme Emperor Stone that was 100 zhang tall? Just how unbelievable was it? In ancient times, Only the top sects and forces had the ability to use Supreme Emperor Stone in their Great Formation as a source of energy. Back then, the huge Supreme Emperor Stone in Imperial Peak, that three emperors' world treated as holy crystal, in addition to the surrounding gold whirlpool, was obviously a method to run a Great Formation. Could it be? Jian Wushuang suddenly thought of a possibility. Jian Wushuang, Emperor Bai and the others discussed, and thought that if the Great Formation outside the Dark Millstone could engulf such a large area and still remain that powerful, it definitely requires an abundant source of energy. The Supreme Emperor Stone is most likely the crucial part to run the formation of the Dark Millstone, Emperor Jiu Qiao said. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. He had already thought of the same thing. Any great formation would definitely require the support of pure energy. For example, the huge formation that was set up by his master in the ancient battlefield actually depended on the space-time storm around it as its energy source. It was naturally not easy to maintain the great formation around the Dark Millstone that was impressive. However, the Supreme Emperor Stone absolutely had the power to maintain the revolving Dark Millstone. In other words, as long as we can destroy the huge Supreme Emperor Stone, the great formation around the Dark Millstone will collapse entirely? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Theoretically, yes. Besides, there's no need to destroy the Supreme Emperor Stone. As long as the connection between the Supreme Emperor Stone and the Dark Millstone is destroyed, which is the golden whirlpool around the Supreme Emperor Stone, the Dark Millstone is supposed to stop after the Supreme Emperor Stone failed to provide it pure energy, Emperor Jiu Qiao said. If so, let's hurry up and figure out a way to destroy the Supreme Emperor Stone and the golden whirlpool, Abysmal Saint Master said. But Jian Wushuang shook his head. We have yet to confirm that the Supreme Emperor Stone is the main factor that drives the Dark Millstone. On top of that, even if it is real, it won't be so easy to destroy it. We have to take our time and plan meticulously. That's true. Abysmal Saint Master and the other two great emperor nodded faintly, and they eventually calmed down. Jian Wushuang, who stood before the golden whirlpool, maintained a casual manner. He looked around casually, and he had spread his soul power long ago. The golden whirlpool could be said to be the most important place in Imperial Peak. The guards there are naturally strict. Not only were there deacon guards from Imperial Cabinet in sight, but there were also 3 experts of great emperor level hidden around to keep watch of this place. Once there is any movement, the 3 great emperors would take action immediately. Besides, the Imperial Cabinet on the top of Imperial Peak isn't far away from here. Once there is movement, there will be a large number of experts from Imperial Cabinet to those who were cultivating on Imperial Peak. In a short time, it could at least gather 7 to 8 great emperors. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Imperial Peak was the most important place in Three Emperors' world. The old lair of Imperial Cabinet was located there. How easy would it be to destroy the Supreme Emperor Stone there? Don't be in a hurry. Now that I am in Imperial Peak, I'll stay in Imperial Peak for a while. I will ask around for more information, and we will find a chance to take action, Jian Wushuang said. The other 3 great emperors nodded simultaneously too. They also knew that there were some things that couldn't be rushed through. They had to take one step at a time. They had to have a well-planned strategy before taking action. Otherwise, not only would their trip be into vain, their lives would be at stake too. Then, Jian Wushuang stayed in Imperial Peak. From the outside, he looked like he was working hard to improve his power and using the cultivation resources. However, he was actually making friends with some other experts and asking salacious questions. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. With his hard work from the past 6 months, they came to a conclusion. The Emperor Supreme Rock was really the most important treasure in Three Emperors' world. It was also the source of energy in Three Emperors' world. Hence, it would naturally play a pivotal role in operating the Dark Millstone. As long as they could destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock, the Great Formation outside the Dark Millstone would collapse directly. Target locked. Now it's time to figure out the hows. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. In Imperial Peak, we will not have any external assistance, nor will we have any stratagem or means that we could use. Hence, the only thing that we have an option for is the time to take action. The other three great emperors nodded simultaneously. The Emperor Supreme Rock was within the Golden Whirlpool. There was no doubt that they could only barge into the Golden Whirlpool and take thunderous measures if they wanted to destroy it. They only had one method to hand. Similarly, they definitely would have to deal with the hindrance by the top experts within Three Emperors' world. They could only seek to have absolutely perfect timing. I just received news that Imperial Peak will throw a doctrine propagation ceremony in 20 years. Besides the three great emperors guarding the Golden Whirlpool, the other great emperor experts in Imperial Cabinet will attend the ceremony personally, while all cultivators in Imperial Peak will gather in Doctrine Propagation Palace. The palace was quite a distance away from the Golden Whirlpool. Even if a great emperor rushed in at full speed personally, I reckon it will take at least a dozen breaths of time to rush back. If we were to opt to take action on Doctrine Propagation Ceremony Day, the success rate would be much higher, Jian Wushuang said. Imperial Cabinet was not too far away from the Golden Whirlpool. They could hurry over in 5 breaths of time with the traveling speed of a great emperor. Compared to the dozen breaths time from Doctrine Propagation Palace, there would be an extra 7 to 8 breaths of time. Don't belittle the 7 to 8 breaths of time. The success rate will go up tremendously with the extra breaths given to Jian Wushuang and the three great emperors. If so, let's do it on that day. It's only 20 years away. Although eternal chaotic world is now in danger, we can afford to wait another 20 years, Abysmal Saint Master said. We agree too. Great Emperor Ji Luo and Emperor Jiu Qiao nodded in agreement too. Before long, the 4 of them came to a mutual agreement to take action at the Doctrine Propagation Ceremony, happening 20 years later. Chapter 2029 Finally Succeed. 20 years. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but clench his fists. 20 years happened to be what he needed then. He was very close to the completion of Immemorial Celestial Body at the beginner level. 20 years would be enough for him to complete the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body. Let's begin. Jian Wushuang seized the time to cultivate. Of course, besides cultivating the Immemorial Celestial Body, he would symbolically walk around the Opportunity Lands occasionally. In Imperial Peak, there was peace and quiet. At least it looked peaceful. With Imperial Cabinet attending the garrison duty personally, the experts and geniuses in Imperial Peak obeyed the rules, and no one acted recklessly. The time flew past. In the blink of an eye, there was only 1 month left until Doctrine Propagation Ceremony. Jian Wushuang was in the secret room in the pavilion he stayed in. Virum. There was a billowing divine power that surrounded Jian Wushuang's divine body. On the surface of Jian Wushuang's body, there was a faint black jade luster. The black jade luster even substantiated and formed armor. The first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body completed. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes and there was light glistening in his eyes. At the same time, his divine body and divine power were experiencing a drastic change. Immemorial Celestial Body was a secret skill of body refinery. Its biggest function was to strengthen one's divine body. However, his divine power would improve too. For instance, Jian Wushuang's divine body and divine power were greatly affected. His divine power, which was originally fierce and pure, and not inferior to a great emperor's, was improving tremendously. After a short while, it had completely transformed. As the divine power transformed, Jian Wushuang couldn't help but clench his fists and feel the billowing strength in him. Amazing! My divine power should have increased by 3 times. Jian Wushuang's eyes were wide open and he was shocked. He knew that his divine power would improve tremendously when he completed the first volume of Secret Skill of Immemorial Celestial Body, but he had never expected the improvement to be so drastic. 3 times the power. When one's power reached Great Emperor level, it could be considered a great improvement if his power were to increase by 30%. Let alone the fact that he improved by 3 times. In terms of divine power strength, he was 3 times stronger than an ordinary great emperor. In addition to his ancient tribe bloodline power, his power was definitely 4 to 5 times stronger than an ordinary great emperor's. How great was the difference? It meant that he could absolutely suppress any ordinary great emperor, like breaking a piece of dead wood in terms of strength and power. In Sanctuary Alliance, putting Emperor by aside, the next strongest person is Red Dragon King. Even if he were to perform his full power, using his unique bloodline, he would at most be 3 to 4 times stronger than an ordinary great emperor. Hence, I am stronger by a notch in terms of power. Jian Wushuang was thrilled. The tremendous improvement in strength power also signified his improvement in overall power. Now he was weaker in comprehension towards doctrine. However, he could still fight against the top few in Sanctuary Alliance. He was fearless against Red Dragon King and Abysmal Saint Master. In terms of power and strength, he might even have the upper hand. In terms of divine power itself, the improvement was already so significant. Immemorial Celestial Body was actually greatest at improving one's divine body. Jian Wushuang immediately started to inspect his divine body. His divine power was made of pure divine power, which was already powerful. Then, as he completed the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body, the surface of his skin was faintly covered by a layer of jade black armor. The durability of his divine body had been through a drastic change. Such a divine body was far beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination. Even Jian Wushuang himself didn't know how powerful his divine body was. However, he had a feeling that if he were to be hemmed in by the 6 great emperors again, besides Ling Zong, who was the strongest among the 6 great emperors, the other 6 could hardly hurt him. Forget about being surrounded for 8 breaths. He could even survive 20 or even 30 breaths. His divine body wouldn't be damaged badly, and he wouldn't expend much divine power either. With such a powerful divine body, in addition to the defense power of 5-gem armor, and my perfect chaotic divine body, I will instantly recover my divine body via divine power. My survival ability or even attack-resistant ability are absolutely out of this world. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. He was absolutely confident that besides Emperor Bai, who was an inverse cultivator like him on the final stage of the 7th step in inverse cultivation, there was no one else who could surpass him in terms of defense skill. He was simply unkillable. The moment I successfully cultivated Immemorial Celestial Body, my overall power increased tremendously. Now, I should begin preparations, Jian Wushuang muttered and instantly communicated with his team members in Blood Mountain Sword. Great Emperor Ji Luo, I am going to walk along the border of the Great Formation around Imperial Peak. You see if you could make a space-time tunnel from here. Great Emperor Ji Luo nodded faintly. 1 month later, the doctrine propagation ceremony would take place, and they intended to take action on the same day. Before they could do that, they had to consider their route of escape. Regardless of if they could destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock or the surrounding Golden Whirlpool, they had to be prepared to leave Imperial Peak and Imperial City. Jian Wushuang maintained the disguise of a brawny man who was casual in manner. He came to the border of the Great Formation that engulfed the entire Imperial Peak and walked around casually along the border of the formation. He looked like he was taking a leisurely walk, but in actual fact, Great Emperor Ji Luo in Blood Mountain Sword was inspecting the Great Formation and surrounding spacetime. He walked for over 10 days straight while Great Emperor Ji Luo continued to study, but they didn't come up with any conclusion. The 4 of them weren't in a hurry though. Just then, Jian Wushuang, who was casually walking along the border of the Great Formation, suddenly looked up. He saw 2 figures flying towards him. The aura that the 2 figures carried was only an early-stage chaotic realm. Plus, they looked extremely strong. One of them happened to be Lin Tianhao, who shared a long-standing friendship with Jian Wushuang. The 2 of them noticed Jian Wushuang's existence and immediately walked over. Hey, isn't this a show? What are you doing? Lin Tianhao squinted his eyes, and there was a glimpse of coldness in his eyes. Jian Wushuang crossed his hands before his chest and pouted. What does it have to do with you? Lin Tianhao's face grew grave. He was used to Jian Wushuang's rude replies. On the contrary, the handsome young man next to him said, Tianhao, who is this? He seems to be very arrogant. Chapter 20:30 The ceremony began. Arrogant, Lin Tianhao smirked. This person had called himself A Shou. He came to Imperial Peak in the same batch of ranking competition as me. Not only is he arrogant, he is also unrestrainedly arrogant. I had an argument before. I told him my identity, but he didn't care about Lin family at all. Oh, the handsome young man's gaze grew cold. Didn't care about Lin family? One should know that the handsome man was from Lin family too. You are A Shou, right? As you don't care about Lin family, I believe that you must be very powerful. As we have crossed paths today, why not make a trip to the battlefield together? The handsome young man asked in a deep voice. Battlefield? Jian Wushuang thought. It was a place designated for battle in Imperial Peak. The rules at Imperial Peak were strict, but in the battlefield, as long as both parties agreed, they could fight all they wanted. Hee, just a battle anyway. Do you think I'm afraid of you? But I am very busy. I have no time to waste. So we'll take to you next time. Then, Jian Wushuang turned to leave without looking at their response. He left very quickly, as though he were running for his life. Lin Tianhao and the handsome young man saw his response, and they looked at him in disdain. This B***star was so arrogant back in Imperial City, and he didn't respect anyone at all. Now he is in Imperial Peak, and realized that there are many experts who are far more powerful than him. He's now well behaved. Lin Tianhao scoffed. Humph. He didn't dare to take the challenge, but he sounded like he wouldn't yield. Rubbish. The young man still looked in disdain. The two of them didn't bother much and left very quickly. In a corner near the border of the Great Formation, Jian Wushuang hid in secret. He let out a breath of relief when he saw Lin Tianhao and the handsome young man making a move to leave. Sword Emperor. How do you feel being cornered by two young men at the early stage chaotic realm? Great Emperor Ji Luo joked in Blood Mountain Sword. Jian Wushuang rubbed his nose and smiled helplessly. If it wasn't because he had concerns and he couldn't expose his overly powerful strength, he could have killed the two of them with a wave. However, he could only flee because of his concerns. He couldn't just take the challenge. Great Emperor Ji Luo, is there a result? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes there is. Great Emperor Ji Luo nodded. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao looked at Great Emperor Ji Luo. I inspected carefully, but the space-time surrounding Imperial Peak is very unique. It might be because of the Great Formation covering it. It would be extremely difficult to open up a space-time tunnel that connects to the outside world from inside Imperial Peak. With my power alone, it will be impossible, Great Emperor Ji Luo said. Impossible? Jian Wushuang, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao looked shocked. Calm down, Great Emperor Ji Luo smiled. With my power alone, it is naturally impossible. Fortunately, I once obtained a unique space-time treasure when I wandered in an ancient battlefield. With the assistance of the treasure, I should be able to open up a space-time tunnel. That's great. Abysmal Saint Master immediately beamed with joy. Ji Luo, I knew you would have a way. Emperor Jiu Qiao looked at Great Emperor Ji Luo. Although Great Emperor Ji Luo wasn't powerful, Emperor Bai wouldn't hesitate to put him in the 4 members experts troop. Plus, there was no objection from any of the Sanctuary Alliance higher-ups. It was because Great Emperor Ji Luo was great with space-time skills, and she would be extremely helpful to the 4 members expert troop. Regardless of if it was when they were besieged by the 6 great emperors or then, they had to rely on Great Emperor Ji Luo to set up a space-time tunnel as their route of escape. The 3 of you make it sound so easy. My space-time treasure is a one-time item. If I were to use it this time, it'd be gone. So don't waste my treasure. You definitely have to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock, or the Golden Whirlpool. Great Emperor Ji Luo said. Don't worry, we will, Emperor Jiu Qiao said. Alright. On Doctrine Propagation Ceremony Day, Ji Luo, you first set up the space-time tunnel. As for the task of destroying the Emperor Supreme Rock, or the Golden Whirlpool, the 3 of us will take care of it, Abysmal Saint Master said. Alright. Great Emperor Ji Luo nodded. The 4 of them discussed and they had a fully planned strategy. Then they only had to wait for the arrival of Doctrine Propagation Ceremony Day. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days passed. It was finally the day where Doctrine Propagation Ceremony started. Doctrine Propagation Ceremony in Imperial Peak was only held once over many years. Every time there would be a few higher-ups from Imperial Cabinet, also those in Peak Chaotic Realm, who came to teach. The experts in Peak Chaotic Realm were pathetically few, even in Three Emperors' world. Any one of them, who taught would be extremely attractive to all cultivators in Three Emperors' world. Hence, a large number of cultivators in Imperial Peak were excited when Doctrine Propagation Ceremony started. When the door of Doctrine Propagation Palace opened, the cultivators swarmed in. The opportunity lands in Imperial Peak were normally filled up a large number of cultivators comprehending there, such as the 3 lofty statues. But then there was no one at the 3 statues. The people who were comprehending there had already departed to Doctrine Propagation Palace. Besides the few at the crucial stage, or cultivating in seclusion, the other cultivators at Imperial Peak had already gathered in Doctrine Propagation Palace. Even the deacons in Cabinet Imperials went there too. In other words, almost 99% of the cultivators in Imperial Peak were gathered in Doctrine Propagation Palace. Of course, Jian Wushuang wasn't one of them. Jian Wushuang continued to stay where he was as he fixed his gaze upon the pinnacle in Imperial Peak, where the Imperial Cabinet located. Finally, swoosh, 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 swoosh. There was a total of 5 figures that plunged out from Imperial Cabinet at the same time. The 5 figures didn't hesitate, but plunged towards Doctrine Propagation Palace directly. Jian Wushuang's eyes beamed with excitement when he saw the 5 of them leaving. A total of 5 great emperors who resided in Imperial Cabinet all year round left for Doctrine Propagation Palace. Jian Wushuang muttered. He knew that there wouldn't be many experts of great emperor level, even in Three Emperors' world. It was already great that there were 20 of them. On top of that, more than half of the great emperors were scattered through various regions in Three Emperors' world, but not within Imperial Peak. It was already shocking enough that there was a total of 8 great emperors guarding in Imperial Peak. Then, the 5 great emperors in Imperial Cabinet went to Doctrine Propagation Palace. Hence, in that short period of time, Jian Wushuang would only have to deal with the 3 great emperors who guarded the Golden Whirlpool all year round. Chapter 2031 Take Action. Jian Wushuang didn't move even after he saw the 5 great emperors exit the Imperial Cabinet to go to Doctrine Propagation Palace. After a short while, dong, 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 there were suddenly ancient yet loud bells ringing from the void afar, and they reverberated through the entire Imperial Peak. Jian Wushuang's eyes gleamed when he heard the bell. Doctrine Propagation Ceremony has begun. Jian Wushuang broke into a bloodthirsty smirk. Let's not delay any further. Let's take action. Abysmal Saint Master said in Blood Mountain Sword. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily and finally moved. He didn't leave to the Golden Whirlpool immediately, but he first came to the border of Imperial Peak, where the Great Formation was. Jian Wushuang waved and Great Emperor Zhiluo's figure appeared in front of him out of nowhere. Great Emperor Zhiluo, we shall hand this to you. The great emperors in Imperial Peak had already gathered at Doctrine Propagation Palace, and you already cultivated the concealing skills from Great Emperor Colored Glaze. There shouldn't be anyone who could notice you, Jian Wushuang said. Don't worry about me. The 3 of you have to take the time to destroy Emperor Supreme Rock, or the Golden Whirlpool. Great Emperor Zhiluo said solemnly. No problem. Jian Wushuang agreed rather straightforwardly. Then, he plunged in the direction of the Golden Whirlpool. Then, in eternal chaotic world far away, in the palace around the void near the dark millstone, the great emperors and Sanctuary Alliance gathered. They already knew that Jian Wushuang and his expert troop were taking action that day. I hope that Abysmal Saint Master, Sword Emperor and their troop would succeed. We can't hope. They have to succeed. If they fail, it will be difficult to find another opportunity to take action again. Plus, the Dark Millstone might be unstoppable forever. Yes, they have to succeed this time, regardless of the price they have to pay. The great emperors clenched their fists tightly, and they looked extremely solemn. As for Emperor Bai, he sat there in silence, but they could see that he had hope in his eyes. Eternal chaotic world was already on the verge of life and death. If Jian Wushuang, and his troop could destroy the Emperor's Supreme Rock, or the Golden Whirlpool to stop the Dark Millstone, Eternal Chaotic World would stand a chance to step back from leaping off the cliff. Go for it, Emperor sighed. In Imperial Peak in Three Emperors World, in the void above the huge Golden Whirlpool, there was a hidden lofty palace. In the palace, there were 3 people gathered together. The 3 people were 2 men and 1 woman, in which a man and a woman were playing chess together, while a red-headed elder watched in silence. No one spoke, until the brawny man that Jian Wushuang had taken the form of appeared before the Golden Whirlpool. The red-headed elder raised his eyebrows and said, "Hasn't the doctrine propagation ceremony begun? The guys on Imperial Peak should be there. Why is there still someone here?" The man and the woman who were playing chess heard, and simply glanced at him. Then the middle-aged man in black smiled and said, "Who knows? That guy might not be interested in doctrine propagation ceremony." The red-headed elder raised his eyebrows, but didn't think further. He was just a guy in early-stage chaotic realm. They didn't care much about him. Just then, ridiculous! The red-headed elder suddenly roared, and his voice reverberated through the surrounding palace. The red-headed elder's figure quivered, and he left to go to the Golden Whirlpool under the palace. Although the man and the woman who was playing chess creased their eyebrows, they didn't move. In front of the Golden Whirlpool, Jian Wushuang had originally been stood there, but he had suddenly turned into flowing light to plunge into the Golden Whirlpool to reach for the Emperor's Supreme Rock. His speed was extremely fast, and he had already arrived in the Golden Whirlpool. Before he got closer to Emperor's Supreme Rock, the red-headed elder appeared before him. "You have guts. Don't you know the rules in Imperial Peak?" The red-headed elder looked cold as he bellowed. Imperial Peak had a strict rule. One of the rules indicated that no one was allowed to step foot into the Golden Whirlpool. For whoever violated the rule, the punishment could be a death sentence. Then Jian Wushuang barged into the Golden Whirlpool. Jian Wushuang heard the red-headed elder's confrontation, and he looked confused. "Rules? What rules? Why have I not heard about it before? You are really a daredevil," the red-headed elder roared, and there was an enormous divine might that pressed on Jian Wushuang. If it had been any other ordinary cultivator in early-stage chaotic realm, he would have been shivering in fear. However, Jian Wushuang looked calm and composed. He didn't look uncomfortable at all. "Hee, I shall skip the bullshit." Jian Wushuang broke into a smile and moved. He charged at the red-headed elder like a bullet. "You are courting death." The red-headed elder was pissed off. How dare a cultivator in early-stage chaotic realm fight against him? However, just as the red-headed elder intended to kill the brawny man, who was arrogant and ruthless, he realized that Jian Wushuang had waved, and when he waved, there were 2 bursts of fierce aura that soared up. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 2 figures appeared before the red-headed elder. They were Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiuqiao, who were in Blood Mountain Sword. The moment the 2 of them appeared, their great emperor aura instantly spread, especially Abysmal Saint Master's aura. The boundless darkness shook the red-headed elder, and he was terrified. "This is..." The red-headed elder's face grew grave. At the same time, in the hidden lofty palace above the Golden Whirlpool, the man and the woman who were playing chess immediately lifted their heads. *T. Both of them saw each other's change in expression. They didn't care about their chess anymore, and instantly turned into flowing lights to plunge to the Golden Whirlpool. In the Golden Whirlpool, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiuqiao had already taken action. Abysmal Saint Master was engulfed in boundless darkness. The boundless darkness even covered the golden luster that was given out by Emperor Supreme Rock. He was the ruler of the darkness. As he waved his sleeve, the boundless power of darkness instantly substantiated into a black spear. The black spear carried boundless extermination aura. The moment it took form, it shook the red-headed elder. As for Emperor Jiuqiao, although his attack was not as terrifying as Abysmal Saint Master's, he was ready to give his all in the battle. It was obvious that he was going to kill the red-headed elder with thunderous measures. Of course, Jian Wushuang took action too. Then he held back his power no more. He instantly let his boundless divine power spread. He didn't use his punching skill anymore, but he drew Blood Mountain Sword. Sword Principle Xian Luo. Blast Rainstorm. Chapter 2032 Drastic Change. The red-headed elder performed a shocking power against the sudden attack. He held a saber in each hand. Both sabers brought churning blood clouds, then bang, bang. There were two loud bangs. It was a battle of 2 against 1 after all. On top of that, the two were truly great emperors. Especially when Abysmal Saint Master's black spear attacked in madness, the red-headed elder could only retreat, and he looked to be in a fix. Before he could steady himself, Jian Wushuang's sword principle attacked like a rainstorm. Sword Principle Xian Luo with 4 moves. Mixed Elements Spirit was a defense skill. Turn Monstrous at 1 thought prioritized speed. Blast Rainstorm focused on power. Moved like strong wind with the momentum of rainstorm. Especially with Jian Wushuang's divine power, along with his power of ancient tribe bloodline. The power of the stroke was much stronger than Abysmal Saint Master's spear had been. This boy. The red-headed elder stared. Previously, he had never cared about Jian Wushuang, who was only an early-stage chaotic realm. Hence, he had only focused on Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao's attacks. But then, just as Jian Wushuang's sword appeared before him, the red-headed elder stared with his eyes wide open. Then he quickly wielded his sabers to block. Dang! There was a loud thud. Just as Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword and the red-headed elder's saber collided, there was a burst of terrifying power. It then had a great impact on the red-headed elder's body. Although the red-headed elder was a great emperor, he quivered and spat a mouthful of blood. His face instantly grew pale, and his aura diminished tremendously. Well done, Jian Wushuang. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Just then, swoosh, swoosh, the man and the woman rushed to where they were at their fastest speed. Their great emperor aura pressed over simultaneously. Jiu Qiao and I will hold them back. Jian Wushuang. Hurry up and go to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock. Abysmal Saint Master roared. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded and didn't hesitate at all. He took a step forward, but his figure plunged to the middle of the golden whirlpool, where the Emperor Supreme Rock was. On the other hand, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao blocked the man and the woman in the first instant, including the red-headed elder, who Jian Wushuang had severely injured. He was also held back by Abysmal Saint Master. The 3 great emperors who guarded the golden whirlpool all year round were stopped while Jian Wushuang had no other hindrance. After a short while, he arrived in the depth of the golden whirlpool, which was the 100-jong tall, mountain-like Emperor Supreme Rock. Jian Wushuang stood before Emperor Supreme Rock at a close distance, and he felt the pure energy contained in the Emperor Supreme Rock. The amount of pure energy it carried was far beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination. The vastest pure energy that Jian Wushuang had ever seen was the divine pond of absolute beginning that contained boundless power of absolute beginning. Back then, he had relied on the power of absolute beginning to enhance his divine power tremendously. However, although the pure energy contained in divine pond of absolute beginning was boundless, it was far behind the huge Emperor Supreme Rock. It was such terrifying pure energy. No wonder it could maintain the dark millstone to revolve in the outside world. As long as I destroy it, the dark millstone will stop. Eternal chaotic world will have a chance to live. However, if it continues to exist, eternal chaotic world will vanish into thin air. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Jian Wushuang had no alternative, so he didn't hesitate. Virum! There was a burst of terrifying sword intention that swept out of Jian Wushuang's body. The sword intention carried a supreme vibe, just like the Emperor's sword. Jian Wushuang's divine power flowed out madly with the power of ancient tribe bloodline power. However, just as he was going to perform sword principle to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock entirely, wow, there was a dark axe shadow that descended without any symptoms. The axe shadow brought about boundless extermination aura. The moment it appeared, it caught Jian Wushuang's attention. This is... Jian Wushuang's face changed. He had yet to store up enough energy for Emperor Sword Principle, but he swung the stroke anyway. Dang! There was a loud bang and the universe shook. There was divine power as vast as an ocean that instantly swept over. Jian Wushuang quivered and took a step back while his eyes looked in front of him. Under the cover of the boundless ocean, somehow there was an extra figure. He was only 5'2", but his body was muscular. His muscles bulged and gave out a raging vibe. He made people think that there was a living beast. The beast was aiming at Jian Wushuang with his battle axe. It's him. Jian Wushuang fixed his gaze. The beast-like bald man was the strongest person among the 6 great emperors that had besieged him in front of Silver-Winged God Mansion back then. His battle axe skills were terrifying, and his strength was fierce. His axe had injured Emperor Zhou Qiao so badly. In terms of power, he was much stronger than Abysmal Saint Master. Then, the beast appeared in the depth of the Golden Whirlpool and attacked him when he was about to destroy Emperor Supreme Rock. How? Why is he here? Jian Wushuang was surprised. It seems that my appearance has surprised Sword Emperor? The beast-like bald man Ling Zong smirked coldly at Jian Wushuang. Even though Jian Wushuang still maintained his appearance of a brawny man, Ling Zong had instantly recognized him. Actually, I have been waiting for you, Sword Emperor. I have been waiting for a very long time. Oh no, not I should say we. As Ling Zong smiled, another 3 figures instantly appeared behind him. The 3 figures gave out an aura that had already reached peak chaotic realm. On top of that, Jian Wushuang had already seen the 3 of them in Silver-Winged God Mansion before. Among the 3, one of them was the purple-haired man with purple eyes, Zichen. Sword Emperor, we have been waiting for you. The purple-haired man with purple eyes, Zichen, spoke. Jian Wushuang's looked distressed. He looked at the scene before him. No matter how stupid a person was, they should be able to tell that he had fallen into a trap. The 4 people in front of him were waiting for him in the middle of the Golden Whirlpool. They were waiting for him to take action, to walk right into the trap. It was a trap. Now he was in the middle of the trap. Chapter 2033 Trap. As the 4 of them appeared here, then outside the Golden Whirlpool, Jian Wushuang spread his soul power. As expected, in the void outside of the Golden Whirlpool, there were 5 figures plunging over. The 5 of them were the 5 great emperors who had departed to Doctrine Propagation Palace. If the 5 of them were in Doctrine Propagation Palace, they would at least need a dozen breaths' time to rush there. But then, it had only been a few breaths' time since Jian Wushuang and his troop had decided to take action. It was obvious that the 5 of them were already on their way back. In the middle of the Golden Whirlpool, in front of the Emperor Supreme Rock, there was a total of 4 great emperors, including the bald man. Outside the Golden Whirlpool, there were 3 great emperors who were in charge of guarding the whirlpool. The 5 great emperors who were rushing to Golden Whirlpool from Doctrine Propagation Palace. All of them added up, it would make 12 great emperors. 12 great emperors. Regardless of if it were to Sanctuary Alliance or to 3 Emperors World, it was a terrifying power. However, it was taking place in front of Jian Wushuang. It seems that you knew long ago that we would take action today. Jian Wushuang stared at the beast-like man Ling Zong. Of course we did. Actually, not only that, but the doctrine propagation ceremony itself is also merely a scheme that we intentionally plotted against you. We purposely gave you an opportunity to take action, Ling Zong scoffed. I see. It turns out that eternal chaotic world is destined to fail this time, Jian Wushuang muttered. Fail? Not that simple, Jian Wushuang. Today, the 4 of you shall die here. Ling Zong's voice became cold, and he took a huge stride forward. Virum. The dark battle axe appeared in the universe. The moment it appeared, it became the main focus of the universe. Jian Wushuang's face grew dim. When Ling Zong took action, Jian Wushuang immediately wielded his Blood Mountain sword too. Boundless divine power instantly poured and swept out. Sword Principal Xian Luo Blast Rainstorm. A powerful stroke, and it instantly collided with the dark axe shadow. Bang! The noise resounded in both Jian Wushuang and Ling Zong took one step back simultaneously. Both of their powers were compatible. What? Ling Zong looked at Jian Wushuang in shock. He remembered that Jian Wushuang had performed a terrifying defense power in Silver-Winged God Mansion back then. The 6 great emperors had joined forces to besiege him for a total of 8 breaths' time, and he had remained undamaged. But in terms of true fighting power, Jian Wushuang was about the same as an ordinary great emperor. However, the power that was contained in the sword principle that Jian Wushuang had just performed was compatible with his axe shadow. How long has it been? How could his power increase so tremendously? Ling Zong was first shocked. Then he soared with terrifying murderous intention. Let's take action and kill him. The three great emperors behind Ling Zong took action simultaneously. Humph! Jian Wushuang humphed coldly and greeted. Jian Wushuang had been fearless against the besiegement of the six great emperors back in Silver-Winged God Mansion, let alone the fact that there were only 4 of them then. On top of that, he had cultivated the immemorial celestial body successfully. However, although he was fearless, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao at the border of the Golden Whirlpool couldn't take it. They were calm and composed when they were dealing with 3 great emperors. But then, the 5 great emperors had already rushed back from Doctrine Propagation Palace and appeared in the Golden Whirlpool. In other words, there was a total of 8 great emperors fighting against Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao then. The 2 of them weren't as invincible as Jian Wushuang. They didn't possess the almost immortal body. How could they possibly resist? After a short while, Emperor Jiu Qiao had already been severely injured while Abysmal Saint Master was not doing any better. Virum! There was a terrifying aura that suddenly spread from Emperor Jiu Qiao. There was a uniquely fierce force that surfaced from Emperor Jiu Qiao body. The force was the power of Star. Emperor Jiu Qiao had already played the secret skill of Star Palace. However, he had only cultivated the first volume of secret skill of Star Palace successfully, and he could only increase his fighting power by 10 times. He still had the lower hand up against the besiegement of so many great emperors. Most importantly, his secret skill of Star Palace could only last for 10 breaths of time. We are in great trouble. What do we do? What do we do? Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao were anxious. They had never expected that the chance that seemed hard to come by would be the trap that the other party set up. They knew that they had gotten into Imperial Peak long ago. How did they know? Abysmal Saint Master didn't understand, but there wasn't time to worry about it. On the other side, Jian Wushuang, who was hemmed in by 4 great emperors, relied on his power and defense power to run out of the middle of the Golden Whirlpool. He was then next to Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao. Virum! Jian Wushuang's divine power soared and his divine body increased in size tremendously. He was almost 100 times bigger in size. On such a humongous divine body, his heads and arms extended one after another. His humongous divine body became a huge space-time black hole and swallowed everything. He continuously performed sword principles along with unique sword intentions. He blocked all the attacks from the 8 great emperors who were attacking Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao. Humph! Do you still want to stop all of us with your force alone, just like the last time? Ling Zong saw and he humphed coldly. His eyes were shimmering with anger. Fight all out. A total of 12 great emperors were provoked by Jian Wushuang's actions. To fight against 12 of them alone? Who did Jian Wushuang think the great emperors were? The auras of the 12 great emperors increased to their maximum, and all of them were going all out. Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor Jiu Qiao, leave now! Jian Wushuang roared. At the same time, he tried his best to resist the attacks of the 12 great emperors. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao made a prompt decision. They knew if their enemy was well prepared long ago, it would be impossible for them to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock. The most important task, then, was for them to survive. Hence, they would have to figure it out after they'd escaped. Swoosh! Swoosh! Seizing the time when Jian Wushuang blocked the 12 great emperors, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao rushed out of the Golden Whirlpool at their fastest possible speeds. As for Jian Wushuang, he fought as he retreated. Jian Wushuang wouldn't be a match to 12 great emperors simultaneously. However, without a doubt, even if the 12 great emperors fought all out, it would be impossible for them to kill Jian Wushuang in a short time. Ever since he had cultivated the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body, his divine body had become stronger than before. It wouldn't be easy for his divine body to be damaged. Chapter 2034 Escape. Jian Wushuang fought as he retreated, and he left the parameter of the Golden Whirlpool. He moved in the direction of Great Emperor Jiluo. Just as the Golden Whirlpool was experiencing a drastic change, in Doctrine Propagation Palace, 99% of the cultivators in Imperial Peak were gathered there. They were originally waiting for the leaders of the Peak Chaotic to arrive. But then, what's going on? Why are the leaders leaving? The doctrine propagation ceremony just began and the leaders have yet to start sharing doctrines, but they left. Did something happen? The cultivators were confused. Even the deacons of the imperial cabinet were confused. No one knew what had happened. Suddenly there was a vigorous bang that resounded in Imperial Peak. All the cultivators in Doctrine Propagation Palace naturally heard it at the first instant. Simultaneously, they detected the intense divine power that burst out from afar. What's going on? What happened? The cultivators couldn't stay calm anymore. They departed to the void above Doctrine Propagation Palace one after another. When they arrived in the void, they could faintly see the huge movement that had taken place in the Golden Whirlpool at the end of their vision. The cultivators who were at an early stage and middle stage chaotic realm were astonished. Someone is fighting in the Golden Whirlpool? Who is it? How dare he? No wonder the 5 leaders left instantly. As they gasped and exclaimed in shock, there was someone who plunged out of the Golden Whirlpool. The first 2 that appeared were naturally Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiuqiao. As the 2 of them plunged out, they flew in the direction of Great Emperor Jiluo with their all. Not long after the 2 of them left, Jian Wushuang and the other 12 great emperors who were attacking him left the Golden Whirlpool as well. They were fighting in madness all the while. The cultivators in Doctrine Propagation Palace were shocked when they saw the sight. 12 leaders? 12 leaders joined forces to besiege one person? Oh goodness! Am I seeing this wrongly? And the person seems to be an early-stage chaotic realm. How is it possible? He is only an early-stage chaotic realm. It would be impossible for him to block one leader. How could he block 12 at the same time? Everyone exclaimed in surprise and disbelief. However, no matter whether they believed it or not, the truth was as such. After they exited the Golden Whirlpool, Jian Wushuang continued to fight as he retreated. His divine body was extremely huge. He relied on Sword Principal Xian Luo, along with 9 heads and 18 arms, to block all the attacks from the 12 great emperors. The 12 great emperors were fighting with their all. Although the 12 great emperors gave their all, and their attacks hit Jian Wushuang's divine body over and over again, Jian Wushuang was unbeatable. His aura was maintained at his peak. He had truly blocked 12 great emperors alone. That person. Among the crowd in Doctrine Propagation Palace, Lin Tianhao was staring at the figure who was besieged by 12 great emperors with his eyes wide open. Although Jian Wushuang's divine body increased in size, he had yet to remove his disguise. He maintained his appearance as a brawny man. Lin Tianhao naturally recognized him at first glance. He's Shou. How is it possible? How could it be him? Lin Tianhao looked on in disbelief and he roared. Shou, it's him? There were people who exclaimed in surprise by the side too. Jian Wushuang had stayed in Imperial Peak for 20 years, and he knew some people. These people recognized Jian Wushuang then. They found it unbelievable because they recognized him. From what they remembered, although Shou was brawny, fierce and unreasonable, his power was truly of a cultivator in early-stage chaotic realm, just like them. Especially Lin Tianhao. He had even defeated him once when had fought with Shou. No one had ever been in doubt of Shou's power. They'd thought his power was normal. Maybe Jian Wushuang disguised it too well. Regardless of if it was his power or his character, he had played it flawlessly well. But now, he was fighting against 12 great emperors alone. Even the 12 great emperors couldn't do anything about him. That's just how powerful he was. This guy. Lin Tianhao clenched his fists as he was shocked. Tianhao, he is the person that we ran into at the border of the Great Formation, right? The handsome man next to Lin Tianhao muttered with shock on his face. Before everyone's astonished gazes, Jian Wushuang and his troops moved to the border of Imperial Peak, where the Great Formation was. At the border of the Great Formation, Great Emperor Ji Luo had been concealing her aura and hiding in a corner. There was a slight space-time gap next to her. The gap was very small, but it was made with the price of the ancient treasure. While Jian Wushuang and the other two great emperors took action, Great Emperor Ji Luo had been waiting. But then, Great Emperor Ji Luo looked distressed. Failed? It's a trap? How could it be? Great Emperor Ji Luo clenched her teeth, and her body was quivering. Then, there were two figures charging at her from the void in front of her. Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor Jiu Qiao, hurry up. Hurry up. Great Emperor Ji Luo obviously had yet to finish her sentence, but she suddenly stopped. Her eyes dilated in shock at that very moment. Virum. Suddenly, there was a fierce aura soaring up behind her. Then a figure slowly substantiated. The figure was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man who was faintly discernible. The tall and sturdy middle-aged man appeared behind Great Emperor Ji Luo without any sign. Oh, I see. The last fish is here. She even made a space-time tunnel to connect to the outside world. Quite capable, I see, the tall and sturdy middle-aged man muttered. Then, his palm slammed the back of Great Emperor Ji Luo at lightning speed. Great Emperor Ji Luo felt a tug in her heart. She wanted to dodge, but she realized that the palm was locked onto her. She had no choice but to take the palm forcibly. As she greeted the palm, bang! There was a loud bang and Great Emperor's body quivered. She tasted a faint sweetness in her throat, and blood flowed out of the corner of her lips. This person is so strong. Great Emperor Ji Luo was shocked. Although she was only considered an ordinary great emperor in eternal chaotic world, she was a great emperor after all. But the other party had injured her so easily with just one palm. Even Abysmal Saint Master couldn't do that. There was no doubt that the person in front of her was a super expert who was no weaker than Ling Zong. Chapter 2035. It'd be impossible to escape. Among the great emperors in eternal chaotic world, excluding Supreme Emperor Bai, there was a distance between the great emperors, although it wasn't too great. For example, the strongest Red Dragon King and Abysmal Saint Master. They were only stronger than the ordinary great emperors by a slight bit. However, when they fought one-on-one, it would be impossible for the two of them to kill the weakest great emperor. However, the great emperors in Three Emperors world were obviously stronger than the great emperors in eternal chaotic world. They were above the standard of a top great emperor. For example, the beast-like bald man Ling Zong was much stronger than Red Dragon King and Abysmal Saint Master. Then, the tall and sturdy man who was charging at Great Emperor Ji Luo was also not any weaker in fighting power than Ling Zong. Outsider die. The tall and sturdy middle-aged man glanced at Great Emperor Ji Luo. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Virum. A terrifying aura engulfed Great Emperor Ji Luo. As the tall and sturdy middle-aged man plunged over, Great Emperor Ji Luo felt a sense of crisis. Without hesitation, her figure turned illusionary. She had no intention of fighting the tall and sturdy middle-aged man head-on. Then she appeared in the void where the space-time gap was. As she slapped, the originally small space-time gap instantly expanded and transformed into a space-time tunnel. The space-time tunnel was enough for one person to fly through. However, Great Emperor Ji Luo had merely expanded the space-time tunnel, and she had yet to leap into it. The tall and sturdy middle-aged man appeared from nowhere again. Then, his palm began magnifying continuously like a huge star that was charging at Great Emperor Ji Luo. Emperor Ji Luo was shocked, and she quickly raised her hand to block. In the end, she fell in the direction of the huge palm. Humph. Do you want to escape via the space-time tunnel? The tall and sturdy middle-aged man smirked coldly. Then, he waved and a billowing space-time power swept out. The space-time tunnel, which was big enough for a person to fly through, began to resume. *T. Great Emperor Ji Luo's face changed. She had been through hardship, and she had even used the one-time use ancient treasure that she had obtained from the ancient battlefield to make a space-time tunnel. It was also the only route of return for the four members' experts troops. However, the tall and sturdy middle-aged man was obviously not any weaker in the manipulation of space-time power compared to her. Go away! Great Emperor Ji Luo's aura soared, and her divine power increased tremendously. She held a spear in each of her hands. As she wielded them, she brought about terrifying power and stabbed. The spears were aiming at the void in front of her. However, they came before the tall and sturdy man via space-time power. The man had no choice but to retreat. Great Emperor Ji Luo's figure became illusionary. She didn't retreat, and instead advanced to fight the tall and sturdy man head-on instead. At the same time, she let out a shrill scream. Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor Jiu Qiao, hurry up and leave. Leave now. Her roar reverberated in the universe. Great Emperor Ji Luo tried her best to keep the tall and sturdy man occupied. Then, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao happened to rush to the scene. They noticed the space-time tunnel that was returning to its original size. The space-time tunnel had already shrunk in size tremendously, and it only needed a short while until it disappeared entirely. Ji Luo. Abysmal Saint Master clenched his hands. Emperor Jiu Qiao by his side also looked pale with rage. They knew clearly that Great Emperor Ji Luo was trying her best to keep the tall and sturdy middle-aged man occupied, while Jian Wushuang was fighting ferociously against the 12 great emperors. He wouldn't be able to rush there before the space-time tunnel disappeared entirely. Then, there was only Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao who would manage to escape in time. Go! Abysmal Saint Master roared, and he immediately grabbed Emperor Jiu Qiao to throw him into the space-time tunnel. Then, Abysmal Saint Master leaped into the space-time tunnel too. Just as the space-time tunnel was going to resume its original size, they got in. In the blink of an eye, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao's figure left, and the space-time tunnel disappeared completely. D***. Two of them escaped. The tall and sturdy middle-aged man, who was being kept occupied by Great Emperor Ji Luo, grew angry and his power increased tremendously. Bang! 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 There were 3 continuous bangs. Then Great Emperor Ji Luo humphed and fell backward. The direction in which she retreated was the direction where Jian Wushuang was. Swoosh! Swoosh! Jian Wushuang met with Great Emperor Ji Luo, and both of them stood side by side. The figures surrounding them stopped and towered over them. They looked at Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo with shimmering gazes. The aura that they carried was terrifying. There was a total of 12 great emperors that had besieged Jian Wushuang earlier, including Ling Zong. Now there was the tall and sturdy middle-aged man who was compatible with Ling Zong. Hence, there was a total of 13 great emperors. Among the 13 great emperors, they hemmed Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo right in the middle. Sword Emperor, I'm afraid the two of us can't escape. Great Emperor Ji Luo looked pale as she glanced at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. He also knew his situation. There was a great formation surrounding Imperial Peak. Great Emperor Ji Luo had been through a lot of trouble to open up a space-time tunnel. However, the space-time tunnel had already disappeared. She wouldn't be able to open it again. In other words, for the two of them it would be impossible to escape. Luckily, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao have escaped. Our 4-member expert troop hasn't been wiped out entirely. Great Emperor Ji Luo laughed, but her laughter was extremely pathetic. Jian Wushuang took another deep breath. At such a crucial moment, Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao had to run. Because those who had stayed back were destined to die, there was almost no possibility of struggle. The 4 members of experts' troops naturally should try their best to escape. Then they could save some fighting power for Sanctuary Alliance, for Eternal Chaotic World. As Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo talked, the beast-like Ling Zong and the tall and sturdy middle-aged man gathered among the 13 great emperors. What happened? How could you let Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao escape? Ling Zong creased his eyebrows and demanded to know. How dare you say that about me? I have to deal with 3 in Peak Chaotic Realm. Why don't you give it a try, and see if you can make all of them stay? On the other hand, there are a total of 12 Peak Chaotic Realm, who couldn't kill one person from early stage Chaotic Realm when they fought an all-out battle. The tall and sturdy middle-aged man teased. Ling Zong paused, but didn't continue to call him to account. Although 2 escaped, Sword Emperor stayed. Among the 4 of them, He was the most important target. As long as we can kill him, we can consider ourselves to have successfully accomplished the task, Ling Zong said. The surrounding people nodded heavily. Chapter 2036 Life and Death Battle. The people in Three Emperors' world knew detailed information about the four of them. Among the four of them, the one that they wanted to kill the most was of course Jian Wushuang. He was too monstrous, too glaring, too intimidating. He was already so powerful when he was only an early-stage chaotic realm. Just how strong would he be when he reached peak chaotic realm? Almost no one could imagine. That was why Jian Wushuang had to die. On the other hand, they didn't care much about the other three. Sword Emperor, the beast-like bald man, Ling Zong spoke. As we are already in this stage, you should reveal your original appearance, right? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He then realized that he was still in the form of a brawny man, a Shou, who he was disguised as. His facial muscles quivered, and then his figure began to transform too. After a short while, he resumed his original appearance. The cultivators who rushed back from Doctrine Propagation Palace were shocked. I see. This is how he really looks. This person had been in disguise from the very beginning. He hid his power, and even his character just to blend in at Imperial Peak. His disguise made him perfect. There were countless people who exclaimed in surprise. They also realized that even though Jian Wushuang had removed his disguise, the aura he carried maintained being in early-stage chaotic realm. In other words, Jian Wushuang's realm was real. He was really an early-stage chaotic realm. This monster! Lin Tianhao gasped in admiration. Previously he had disdained Jian Wushuang, but now, this person is actually a super expert in disguise. I once invited him to the battlefield to uphold the reputation of the Lim family. The handsome young man next to Lin Tianhao was glad. Luckily, he didn't take up the challenge. Otherwise I'd be doomed. Everyone in Imperial Peak was watching the battle. At the same time, many of them found it saddening, because they knew no matter how monstrous Jian Wushuang was, he had come to a dead end. Great Emperor Ji Luo, it is impossible for us to escape from the current situation. We have no choice but to fight a life and death battle. Jian Wushuang licked his lips, and there was madness in his eyes. There was madness that spread in Great Emperor Ji Luo's beautiful eyes. You go first, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Huh? Great Emperor Ji Luo looked at Jian Wushuang in shock, but she saw what Jian Wushuang meant by looking into his eyes. I understand. Great Emperor Ji Luo nodded heavily. Then, there was a strange power that swept out from the boy at the next moment. The secret skill of Star Place was instantly performed. Come on! Great Emperor Ji Luo bellowed and soared. She charged at the 13 great emperors in front of her. Just as she charged out, Jian Wushuang moved as well. However, he didn't charge forward, but in the opposite direction from Great Emperor Ji Luo. At the end of the direction in which he flew, there was the Golden Whirlpool, where the Emperor Supreme Rock was. Die! Great Emperor Ji Luo was fueled with murderous intention. Her two spears stabbed out madly. With the assistance of the secret skill of Star Palace, her power instantly increased by 10-fold, and her speed became extremely fast too. The two spears transformed into bolts of lightning that hit the great emperors in front of her. It was obvious that she wanted to hold all the great emperors in front of her back, just like Jian Wushuang, in order to make time for Jian Wushuang. However, the scene simply looked like she was courting death in Ling Zong's and other great emperors' eyes. Such a joke. Do you think you are like a sword emperor, who possesses defensive skills that make him almost immortal? Ling Zong roared and slashed with his battle axe. The tall, sturdy middle-aged man and the other great emperors around him took action simultaneously. The intimidating attacks surged at Great Emperor Ji Luo altogether. Although Great Emperor Ji Luo performed the secret skill of Star Palace and increased her fighting power by 10 times, she still couldn't be a match to so many great emperors. Under the attacks, Great Emperor Ji Luo was at a dead end. But suddenly, Virum, there was a sudden burst of boundless soul power. Great Emperor Ji Luo's aura had already increased tremendously with the aid of secret skill of Star Palace, but it continued to increase at a terrifying speed. Instantly, Her aura surpassed everyone else's at the scene. Even Ling Zong, and the tall and sturdy middle-aged man next to him, were obviously weaker than Great Emperor Ji Luo in terms of aura. This is soul ignition? She is really courting death. The Great Emperors in Three Emperors world came back to reality. Although they had said that Great Emperor Ji Luo was courting death, their faces grew grave. When they reached the level of the Great Emperor, it would be easy to suppress, or even to injure their opponents. For instance, Ling Zong and the tall and sturdy middle-aged man had strong enough fighting power to injure any ordinary Great Emperor. It was too difficult to kill a Great Emperor. A Great Emperor had already reached the top of the universe. It was extremely difficult for one to reach that level, and they would have an array of skills. A Great Emperor would have a final card, which was Soul Ignition. If a peak Emperor God were to perform Soul Ignition, his power would increase by a dozenfold. As for Great Emperor, although the increment wouldn't be that ridiculous, his power would absolutely reach a higher level. However, the price to pay for Soul Ignition was death. There was no possibility of survival. Great Emperor Ji Luo knew that she would die for sure. Hence, she performed Soul Ignition. Hong! Great Emperor Ji Luo exploded with a terrifying fighting power. Her two spears became even more powerful than before. Then they became two death god sickles. The 13 Great Emperors, only Ling Zong and the middle-aged man could take Great Emperor Ji Luo's spears forcefully. Once the others were hit, they would be severely injured even if they didn't die. Be careful. The woman was fighting like a cornered beast. There was no point in dealing with her just then. Her soul power will burn her to death eventually. We will fight against her then. Shall die then. Keep her occupied. The others go after Sword Emperor. The 13 Great Emperors came to a decision very soon. More than half of the Great Emperors stayed back to deal with Great Emperor Ji Luo, including the tall and sturdy middle-aged man. The remaining few Great Emperors chased after Jian Wushuang, under the lead of Ling Zong. Jian Wushuang's gaze was stern, and he stared at the golden whirlpool at the end of his sight. As for everything that had happened behind him, he knew clearly, but he never once turned back to look. He clearly knew what he was supposed to do then. Just as he appeared in the golden whirlpool nearby, and leaped into the golden whirlpool, there was a sudden bang from the void behind him. At the same time, Great Emperor Ji Luo's final shrill scream resounded. Sword Emperor, it's your call. Her voice vanished into thin air, and her aura was severed entirely. Great Emperor Ji Luo had passed away. Chapter 2037 Hopeless Situation. Sword Emperor, it's your call. Great Emperor Ji Luo's shrill scream resounded in Jian Wushuang's ears, and his body quivered. He never once looked back, but the determination in his eyes grew more intense. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang's speed reached a higher limit, and he barged into the golden whirlpool at the first instant. Ling Zong and the other few Great Emperors tried their best with him from behind. However, it was impossible to stop Jian Wushuang before he got close to the Emperor Supreme Rock. In the end, Jian Wushuang appeared in front of the Emperor Supreme Rock again. Looking at the Emperor Supreme Rock in front of him, which was 100 zhang tall, Jian Wushuang instantly clenched his hands. He had wanted to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock previously, but Ling Zong managed to stop him in time. Then, he had no route of return, and he could only fight all out. Break apart! Jian Wushuang sounded hysterical. His divine power burst out in collaboration with his power of ancient tribe bloodline. Then they flowed into Blood Mountain Sword madly. It was as though Blood Mountain Sword could feel Jian Wushuang's madness. It started quivering vigorously and constantly whistled. Jian Wushuang's sword principle exploded entirely. It was still sword principle Xian Luo, and it was the blast rainstorm that focused on power the most. Moving like strong wind with the momentum of rainstorm, there was a terrifying sword light that blotted out the sky, and the sun which appeared in the golden whirlpool. It slashed at the huge Emperor Supreme Rock directly. *T. Ling Zong and the others who rushed before the Emperor Supreme Rock saw the sword light, and their faces grew grave. However, they had just gotten there, and Jian Wushuang had already stroked out his sword light. They couldn't block it in time, and could only watch the terrifying sword light hit the Emperor Supreme Rock. Clang! There was an ear-piercing clang, and the entire golden whirlpool quivered. However, it resumed tranquility after that. The 100-jong tall lofty Emperor Supreme Rock continued to float in the air quietly. There was no sign of the Emperor Supreme Rock's surface, as it was hit by Jian Wushuang's sword light, let alone the fact that it wasn't shattered. What? Jian Wushuang looked surprised. He fought with his all and performed a blast rainstorm in sword principle Xian Luo that focused on power the most. In the end, he couldn't even move the Emperor Supreme Rock. The Emperor Supreme Rock is so sturdy. Haha, Jian Wushuang. Do you really think the holy crystal will be easily destroyed? This is such a joke. Forget about yourself. Even if the strongest emperor by an eternal chaotic world came personally, he absolutely couldn't destroy the holy crystal. No one could. Ling Zong laughed hysterically, and the other great emperors looked at him with disdain as well. The Emperor Supreme Rock could endure such terrifyingly boundless pure energy. Its sturdiness was naturally unbelievable. It was already difficult to destroy a nail-sized Emperor Supreme Rock, let alone the Emperor Supreme Rock that was 100-jong tall. It was almost impossible for an expert in this era to do that. Jian Wushuang's face grew grave when he heard Ling Zong's comment. He performed blast rainstorm with his all, but he hadn't managed to leave any mark on the Emperor Supreme Rock. Even if he were to perform his strongest trump card, the secret skill of Star Palace, to increase his power by 100 times, he might not have been able to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock. Most importantly, he was able to slash the Emperor Supreme Rock, as there was no one who had stopped him earlier. But then Ling Zong and a few other great emperors rushed over, and they wouldn't give Jian Wushuang another chance to hit the Emperor Supreme Rock. Humph! Even if I can't destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock, I will destroy the surrounding formation. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold, and the sword in tension he carried soared up. He wielded his sword, and his sword light was aimed at the golden whirlpool surrounding them. The golden whirlpool connected the Emperor Supreme Rock with the dark millstone. If he could destroy it completely, it would be enough to stop the dark millstone. Jian Wushuang's sword in tension soared, and the others naturally saw through his plan at the first instant. Stop him! Ling Zong roared and transformed into a beast to leap at Jian Wushuang. The other great emperors took action against Jian Wushuang as well. At the same time, the great emperors who had been stopped by Great Emperor Ji Luo outside the Golden Whirlpool earlier rushed over after Great Emperor Ji Luo passed away. They met with Ling Zong and the others. In the end, the 13 great emperors gathered together to besiege Jian Wushuang again. Bang! 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 There were continuous bangs in the Golden Whirlpool. Every bang was followed by a large amount of power, and hit the surrounding Golden Whirlpool. Jian Wushuang was in the middle of the Golden Whirlpool after all. When they fought there, the impact that they caused would affect the stability of the Golden Whirlpool. On top of that, Jian Wushuang seized every chance he got to attack the surrounding void with his sword lights. The energy that moved around in the Golden Whirlpool vibrated within. Sh*T. Ling Zong's face grew grave. By then, the great emperors under the lead of the tall and sturdy middle-aged man rushed to the battlefield and met with Ling Zong. Let's take action together. Stop him from attacking the great formation in the Golden Whirlpool. Ling Zong roared. The 13 great emperors took action simultaneously. Even though Jian Wushuang had shockingly powerful defense power, that was enough to last the attack of 13 great emperors, he was completely suppressed. He couldn't damage the surrounding great formation or the space-time. There were many experts that had gathered in the void outside the Golden Whirlpool. They were watching the shocking war in the middle of the Golden Whirlpool attentively. Everyone could tell that Jian Wushuang was cornered in a hopeless situation. He was merely fighting back like a cornered beast. Humph! Although this person has terrifying defense power, his power isn't invincible after all. He has the space to struggle against the 13 leaders from Imperial Cabinet. It seems that he was only stronger in terms of taking hits. No matter how great his defense power is, he will reach his limit under constant besiegement. At that time, he can only meet a dead end. He's dead. He will let the 13 leaders hem him in for so long. He should be proud even if he dies. The cultivators sighed. No one thought Jian Wushuang would survive at the current stage. He was mostly fighting back like a cornered beast. However, no one noticed that Jian Wushuang's eyes were extremely cold, even though he behaved rather crazily. Chapter 2038 Finally Dead. As Jian Wushuang was besieged by the 13 great emperors in madness, he took out a token. The token belonged to Emperor Jiu Qiao, who had escaped from Imperial Peak. Emperor Jiu Qiao, listen to me. Find a place to hide with Abysmal Saint Master for now. Don't be in a hurry to leave Three Emperors' world. After he sent out a simple message, Jian Wushuang didn't worry about if Emperor Jiu Qiao replied, but his eyes grew red with madness as he looked at the 13 great emperors in front of him. Haha, come on, come on! Jian Wushuang's hysterical laughter burst out. His hysterical laugh made people feel that he was in a hopeless situation, that he was experiencing madness before death. At the same time, Jian Wushuang's divine body increased in size again. He was about 10,000 zhang tall. With such a huge size, he was simply a giant target to the surrounding 13 great emperors. The great emperor's attacks hit Jian Wushuang even more easily. However, he could cover a bigger range with his body size. The damage that he could cause to the surrounding golden whirlpool was even greater. Jian Wushuang became a madman who was fighting to his death. He fought with his all against the surrounding great emperors. The terrifying attacks shook the entire golden whirlpool, and the originally quivering golden whirlpool shook even more vigorously. Rumble! There was a ferocious rumble, and a storm took place in the golden whirlpool. The terrifying storm stirred an enormous amount of pure energy in Emperor Supreme Rock, and it started roaring. In an instant, Jian Wushuang and all great emperors in the golden whirlpool were engulfed within the energy storm. In the storm, there was a boundless gale howling, and people couldn't keep their eyes open. Oh no! This crazy man! The 13 great emperors looked on in distress. The balance of the surrounding golden whirlpool was broken apart by Jian Wushuang. The energy storm was caused by the imbalance of the golden whirlpool. The aura he carried has diminished, a great emperor suddenly said. Huh! The other great emperor looked at Jian Wushuang. As expected, Jian Wushuang's aura was obviously weaker than it had been before. One should know that from the beginning of the massacre until then, Jian Wushuang's fighting power had been at its peak. He wasn't affected at all. However, his aura had diminished then. In other words, he was beginning to get hurt. Haha, I thought he was really invincible and unbeatable. It turns out that he can be hurt too. Humph. He should be proud that he could last so long under the besiegement of 13 great emperors. Regardless, he has his limits. Forget about the golden whirlpool. Kill Jian Wushuang first. Alright. The 13 great emperors instantly reached a mutual agreement and launched attacks simultaneously. In the energy storm happening in the golden whirlpool, they continued to hem Jian Wushuang in. Die! 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 Jian Wushuang constantly roared, and he became even more violent and crazy. However, his aura grew weaker, and he started spitting blood. It was obvious that he was coming to an end. Finally, as Ling Zong's battle axe hit on his huge divine body, his divine body began to collapse. Virum! 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 The speed of his collapse was extremely fast. After a short while, Jian Wushuang's divine body turned into divine power that scattered all around the golden whirlpool. In the golden whirlpool, the energy storm reached a terrifying level along with the madness of the battle. Only great emperors could stand straight in the storm. If it were any ordinary Sir God or Emperor God, they would have been killed in the energy storm. The energy storm was terrifying. Hence, after Jian Wushuang's divine body had collapsed, his flesh and blood that scattered around, including his divine power, was instantly swept by the energy storm. Swoosh! 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 The 13 great emperors appeared in the place where Jian Wushuang's divine body had collapsed and looked into the surrounding void. He's finally dead. The expressions on the 13 great emperors looked complicated. It stirred a billowing wave from the bottom of their hearts. A total of 13 great emperors had worked together. There were so many powerful great emperors, including Ling Zong, and the tall and sturdy middle-aged man among the group. Even so, They had used such a long time and put in great effort to finally kill Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang wasn't the strongest enemy that they had ever fought against, there was no doubt that he was absolutely the one with the strongest defense power, and had taken the most beating. However, regardless, Jian Wushuang was killed by them. Sword Emperor is quite impressive. Look, he is already dead, but his divine power and aura are still terrifying. One of the great emperors commented. The other great emperors looked at the surrounding void. It was true. The surrounding void, and even the energy storm in the golden whirlpool, was covered in an enormous amount of divine power and aura. They were still shockingly strong. The great emperors merely complimented casually, and thought Jian Wushuang was truly impressive. When one's power reached their level, they would leave behind an enormous amount of divine power and aura. It was perfectly normal. The divine power and aura would slowly be dispersed as time flew past. They didn't need to bother with it. Oh yeah, where is Jian Wushuang's Qiankuan ring and his treasures? A great emperor immediately searched around the place that Jian Wushuang had died. However, he swept his soul power across, but couldn't find any treasure. He couldn't even find the divine weapon that Jian Wushuang had used. What happened? The great emperor looked confused. It should have been swept away by the energy storm in the golden whirlpool. His divine body increased to such a size, and it covered too wide a range. The energy storm in the golden whirlpool is so strong, it could wipe away his treasure in an instant. Another great emperor commented. I noticed earlier that his Qiankuan ring was swept away by an energy storm. I wanted to stop it, but I was quite far away from the Qiankuan ring. Another great emperor said. Hence, the great emperors were not suspicious about it. It was such a terrifying energy storm. Most importantly, Jian Wushuang's size was so huge. At the very moment at which his divine body collapsed, it became perfectly understandable that his treasure would be blown away by the energy storm. Let's think of a way to stabilize the golden whirlpool first. Then, we can search through the area carefully to see if we can find any of Jian Wushuang's treasure, Ling Zong said. The great emperors on the spot nodded simultaneously. However, Jian Wushuang had caused quite a bit of damage to the golden whirlpool. It would be rather troublesome to recover it. Chapter 2039 failed. The great emperors in Three Emperors World immediately thought of a way to recover the golden whirlpool. The golden whirlpool viewed the Emperor Supreme Rock as its core. As long as the Emperor Supreme Rock wasn't destroyed, the golden whirlpool could be recovered. On top of that, although Jian Wushuang had tried his best to destroy the golden whirlpool, he hadn't hurt the foundation of the golden whirlpool. As the great emperors in Three Emperors World worked together, they only took a few days' time to repair the entire golden whirlpool. The huge golden whirlpool resumed its calmness entirely, and only the divine power and aura remained. They continued to fill every corner in the golden whirlpool. After the golden whirlpool was repaired, the great emperors in Three Emperors World searched through the place thoroughly once again. But it was a pity that they couldn't find any of Jian Wushuang's treasure. They were helpless about it. The golden whirlpool drove the dark millstone, and they were connected via spacetime. When the terrifying energy storm took place, it had possibly swept Jian Wushuang's treasure to the dark millstone via the spacetime. The great emperors couldn't do anything about it. Imperial Peak slowly calmed down. Of course, everything that happened there was reported to the three overlords in the dark void at the first instant. Lung Wuxia, Demon King, the Savage Man, the Blurry Blood Man gathered together. Jian Wushuang is finally dead, the Blurry Blood Man said. This B***starred made some trouble for us before he died. Demon King humphed coldly. Regardless, Jian Wushuang had died and Great Emperor Ji Luo died too, with Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao, who were still in Three Emperors World. They wouldn't be able to do anything much. Next, we shall only concentrate on fighting against the eternal chaotic world, the Blurry Blood Man said. The People's Sanctuary Alliance have found out that the four members' experts troop failed and couldn't be resolved from within. They will definitely gather countless forces of countless experts to fight head-on. They will try to destroy our great formation. However, as long as the Emperor Supreme Rock remains intact, the great formation will be indestructible. They are destined to fail. Demon King smiled maliciously. That's a definite. For this great formation, for this dark millstone, we prepared ourselves over so many years. How could they destroy it just like that? Eternal chaotic world must be exterminated. The blurry blood man clenched his hands, and the fire in his empty eyes was burning. Demon King was equally confident. Only Lung Rushua sat there without making any comment. But if one looked closely, they would notice that her expression was complicated. Jian Wushuang, you died in the end? Hehe. I thought you'd be able to survive until the end and appear before me. It seems that you are only SOSO. Lung Rushua smirked coldly, and she quickly resumed calm. In the void far away from Imperial City in Three Emperors' world, there were two figures that hid there with their auras reined in. The two people were naturally Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao, who had escaped from Imperial Peak. There is no response from the communication token of Sword Emperor and Great Emperor Ji Luo. It seems that Abysmal Saint Master looked distressed. Emperor Jiu Qiao became quiet too. After they escaped from Imperial Peak, they immediately kept in touch with Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo. Besides Jian Wushuang, who had sent a message in the beginning, there was no other news after. It meant that they passed away. Emperor God Jiu Qiao sighed. He felt heartache, but he also felt very helpless. He was really helpless. In the situation back then, he and Abysmal Saint Master could only escape. Then, Eternal Chaotic World would at least keep two more people with the fighting power of a great emperor. If they were to stay there was no doubt that they would die. There was no possibility of survival. Plus, they wouldn't be able to help Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo. One could say that the two of them had made the wisest and most accurate decision possible. Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo knew that clearly. Hence, they had no complaints. On the contrary, they were glad that they had managed to escape. At least, not all members in the experts' troop were dead then. Sword Emperor and Ji Luo passed away. There are only you and I left. What should we do next? Do we continue to think about how to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock? Emperor Jiu Qiao looked at Abysmal Saint Master. He wasn't confident at all. When the four of them were in their prime, they were well prepared, and they picked the best time. They had never thought that they would fall perfectly into the enemy's trap. Then 2 out of 4 of them passed away. They couldn't be entering Imperial Peak. Just the 2 of them. Forget about the fact that they were in Great Emperor Realm. Even if they were to enter by sheer luck, it would be impossible for them to destroy the Emperor Supreme Rock. Don't act hastily. Didn't Jian Wushuang tell the 2 of us to stay put in Three Emperors' world before he passed away? Let's find a place to hide. Then, we will report what happened to Sanctuary Alliance, Abysmal Saint Master said. Emperor Jiu Qiao nodded faintly. In the lofty palace in the void around the dark millstone in Eternal Chaotic World, the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance were gathered there. Then, the great emperors looked to be in distress, and they kept quiet. They had heard from Emperor Jiu Qiao's doppelganger that the experts' troop that entered Dark Millstone fell into the enemy's trap, and they were besieged by 13 great emperors. On top of that, Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo had passed away. There were only Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao who had escaped. The Emperor Supreme Rock is located right in the middle. There are too many experts there. The 4-member expert troop spent so much time and effort, but they failed. It means that it will be impossible for Sanctuary Alliance to destroy the Great Formation from inside of the Dark Millstone. Hence, we can only fight head-on. Emperor Bei's cold voice reverberated and broke the silence in the hall. The great emperors looked at Emperor Bai simultaneously. For the past 20 years, under the guidance of Sanctuary Alliance, Eternal Chaotic World has started preparation. It isn't easy to gather all peak fighting power in a short time. We have to speed up, especially in terms of the special tribes, Emperor Bai said. The great emperors nodded. Jiu Qiao, stay back in Three Emperors' world with Abysmal. Find a place to hide. Who knows? The 2 of you might come in handy again, Emperor Bai commanded. Yes, Emperor Jiu Qiao nodded. All right, go get ready, Emperor Bai waved. From the beginning until the end, he didn't bring up the passing of Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo, nor did he comment much. Although the surrounding great emperors were confused, they didn't ask but left. However, Emperor Jiu Qiao's doppelganger stayed back. Chapter 2040. Chapter 2041. The Bee in the Hall. There was only Emperor Bai and Emperor Jiu Qiao's doppelganger. Mr. Emperor Bai. Emperor Jiu Qiao looked at Emperor Bai in confusion. Just as everyone left, Emperor Bai sent him a message in private for him to stay back. It was obvious that Emperor had something in mind, that he wanted to see him in private. Jiu Qiao, let me ask you, did you see Sword Emperor and Great Emperor Ji Luos passing with your own eyes? Emperor Bai fixed his gaze upon Emperor Jiu Qiao. I didn't. Emperor Jiu Qiao shook his head. However, Great Emperor Ji Luo paid a great price to open up the space-time tunnel. It was impossible for her to open it for the second time. They were fighting against 13 great emperors in Imperial Peak. Sword Emperor and Great Emperor Ji Luo stood almost no chance of survival. And there is no reply from their communications tokens. Emperor Jiu Qiao's judgment was in accordance. In such a situation, it would be unrealistic if Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo wanted to stay alive. Emperor Bai creased his eyebrows and said, You said that Jian Wushuang sent you another message not long after you ran out of Imperial Peak? Yes, he told me to stay in Three Emperors' world. Don't leave in a hurry, Emperor Jiu Qiao said. Is that so? Emperor Bai nodded. All right then. That's it. Yes. Emperor Jiu Qiao didn't understand what Emperor Bai was trying to ask, but he didn't think further. He left very quickly. In the hall, only Emperor Bai was sitting there alone. There was a strange emotion shimmering in his eyes. Just as everyone was certain that Jian Wushuang and Great Emperor Ji Luo died, he was in doubt. After all, he was also an inverse cultivator. He knew clearly how powerful one in the 7th step of inverse cultivation skill was. Although Jian Wushuang was only in stage 1, it wouldn't be easy to kill him. On top of that, Jian Wushuang had many powerful trump cards to hand. Besides, he also had a 7-treasure divine elixir. Young man, I hope that you are still alive. Emperor Bai muttered, and there was hope in his eyes. In Imperial Peak in Three Emperors' world, in the middle of the 3 statues, the huge golden whirlpool resumed normal operation. The entire golden whirlpool was huge, but it had recovered from the damage done during the battle. There was almost no scar left behind. If there was any remaining sign, it was still filled with divine power and aura in every corner of the golden whirlpool. The divine power and aura were powerful. From the great emperors and Three Emperors' world's point of view, the divine power and aura would disperse over time. However, just as everyone redirected their attention from the golden whirlpool, the remaining divine power and aura slowly started to gather at the core of the golden whirlpool. The divine power that scattered all around the golden whirlpool started substantiating as well. After a short while, there was a human figure that appeared in the golden whirlpool. He lifted his head, and there was a cold-looking young face. It was Jian Wushuang, who had passed away. He was still alive. Jian Wushuang stood in the depth of the golden whirlpool and reigned in all his aura, while he looked around himself. Then there was still a divine power that was moving back to him from the surrounding aura. Just as the divine power gathered, Jian Wushuang's divine body completed the reorganization. However, there seemed to be less than 10% of divine power left. It seems that I won the bet. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and his eyes beamed with joy. After countless life and death trials, he had been through countless dangers and hopeless situations. The more hopeless the situation was, the calmer he was, the more accurate his judgment would be. And he had the guts to take the risk, to gamble. Now it was considered a great bet to him. In the previous battle, he had been besieged by 13 great emperors, and there was a great formation that isolated Imperial Peak. He had no chance of escaping. In such a situation, there was only one way for him to survive. It was for everyone to think he was dead. In short, he had played dead. However, how difficult would it be to fool all 13 great emperors? Ordinary people wouldn't have been able to pull it off. However, Jian Wushuang, who was an inverse cultivator, who possessed a perfect chaotic divine body could. Hence, he had intentionally let his divine body grow in size and reach about 10,000 zhang tall. He did so because he would look like he was acting out of madness to damage the golden whirlpool. In actual fact, his goal was to spread his divine power wider after his divine body collapsed. It'd be best if his divine power could scatter all around the golden whirlpool, under the power of the energy storm. Then, he had abundant divine power, but he didn't repair his divine power to repair his divine body when he was attacked by the 13 great emperors. It was so that he could create a scene where his aura grew weaker and collapsed in the end. Then, the 13 great emperors wouldn't be suspicious. Hence, the scene that Jian Wushuang had imagined in his head was realized. His 10,000 zhongtao divine body couldn't take the mad attacks of the 13 great emperors, and it finally collapsed. The enormous amount of his divine power scattered all around. When the energy storm swept out, his divine power was scattered to every corner of the golden whirlpool. Hence, it had led to the remainder of Jian Wushuang divine power, an aura all over the golden whirlpool. If it was anywhere else, such as a spacious void, the 13 great emperors absolutely would take Jian Wushuang's remaining divine power, and he would vanish. However, they were in the golden whirlpool. The golden whirlpool was too important to three emperors' world, and the coverage of his divine power was too wide. Hence, the 13 great emperors couldn't take it entirely. Hence, they could only let his divine power lie around in the golden whirlpool, and wait for it to disperse on its own. The 13 great emperors left after they had repaired the golden whirlpool. From the beginning until the end, the great emperors had never suspected that Jian Wushuang was still alive. It was impossible that they would suspect it because Jian Wushuang's divine body had collapsed in front of them. The 13 of them had seen it clearly. Under such circumstances, any ordinary cultivator would be utterly dead. However, they weren't informed about how terrifying an inverse cultivator was. Nor did they know the true power that a seventh step in inverse cultivation possessed. Hence, Jian Wushuang had survived. He had won the bet. He relied on his perfect chaotic divine body and his disguise to fool the 13 great emperors. Then, after everything had stabilized and the 13 great emperors were no longer concerned about the golden whirlpool, Jian Wushuang reorganized his divine power and recovered his divine body. The great emperors in three emperors' world had no idea about it. Chapter 2041. One who survives a great disaster is destined to good fortune forever after. Luckily, I won the bet. Otherwise, the only choice I would have had back then would have been to stop at nothing and play all my trump cards to fight a life-and-death battle. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. With such actions, he might have caused some casualties among the great emperors from three emperors' world. However, there was no doubt that he would have died. Now at least had survived. In the golden whirlpool, Jian Wushuang waved. Virum. There was a ray of dark light that burst out. It was Jian Wushuang's Qian King ring that contained his treasures, including Blood Mountain Sword, River Mountain Map, and so on. The Qian Kuan ring had always been under the coverage of his divine power. Most importantly, due to the fact that he was still alive, Qian Kuan ring had an owner, and it wouldn't spread any aura. In addition to that, it was covered with his divine power. Hence, the 13 great emperor couldn't find it. Jian Wushuang put on his Qian Kuan ring and his 5-gem armor. At the same time, he took out 2 communication tokens. The 2 tokens belonged to Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jie. As long as they were still within three emperors' world, they would be able to keep in touch with Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang simply glanced through it, and he knew that the 2 great emperors had sent him many messages after they'd left Imperial Peak. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. He didn't reply and put the 2 tokens away. He didn't want anyone to know that he was alive, including the people in Sanctuary Alliance. Then, Jian Wushuang's body turned illusionary and appeared in the middle of the golden whirlpool, above the huge Emperor Supreme Rock. There was a faint golden light there. The golden light was much brighter than the other places in the golden whirlpool. The golden light was actually a unique prohibition. If I'm not mistaken, the prohibition is a vital element that connects the golden whirlpool with the Emperor Supreme Rock. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes while he walked before the golden prohibition. As his divine power scattered around the huge golden whirlpool, He also studied the revolving golden whirlpool. By then, he had already realized the existence of the golden prohibition. He could tell that the golden prohibition was extremely mysterious. Besides, the boundless pure energy in the Emperor Supreme Rock actually surged through the golden prohibition. In other words, without the golden prohibition, it would be impossible for the golden whirlpool to obtain energy from the Emperor Supreme Rock. Nor would it be possible for the dark millstone to operate. Previously, we didn't understand the structure of the golden whirlpool at all. We only knew to damage the golden whirlpool blindly. In the end, although the golden whirlpool was damaged, the experts in Three Emperors World repaired it with ease. If I could find out about the golden prohibition sooner, and figure out a way to destroy the golden prohibition, I'm afraid it wouldn't be that easy if the great emperors in Three Emperors World wanted to repair it. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, "Don't act hastily. Let's take a look." Jian Wushuang muttered and slowly reached his hand into the golden prohibition. Suddenly, rumble! A vast ocean of pure energy flowed to Jian Wushuang directly. This is... Jian Wushuang was shocked at first. Then he was filled with excitement. He could feel that the golden prohibition contained an unbelievable amount of pure energy. The pure energy wasn't utilized by the surrounding whirlpool, but could be refined and absorbed straight away. Could it be? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes while he had an idea that popped into his head. The moment the idea rose, it couldn't be suppressed. Jian Wushuang slowly walked forward, and then submerged himself within the golden prohibition. He was covered under the golden prohibition entirely. After Jian Wushuang entered the golden prohibition, he felt that he was submerged into an ocean of pure energy. There was too much pure energy, and it was immense. His divine body couldn't help but shiver. He was shivering in excitement. Jian Wushuang could feel the blood in his body boiling, and his cells were cheering with joy. He didn't intentionally guide it, but the surrounding pure energy poured into his divine body continuously. His divine body instantly refined and absorbed it. The speed of refinery and absorption was shockingly fast. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and started absorbing pure energy to his heart's content. Thanks to the speed of absorption, he who had originally only had less than 10% divine power started recovering at a shocking speed. 10%, 20%, 30%. In merely half a day's time, his divine power recovered by more than 30%. Haha, such a recovery speed is much faster than King of Venomous Worms. Jian Wushuang was extremely excited. King of Venomous Worms had been parasitizing his body and fighting along with him. He would recover Jian Wushuang's divine power as well as a wound. However, when Jian Wushuang reached the 7th step of the perfect chaotic divine body, King of Venomous Worms' recovery speed wasn't significantly helpful to Jian Wushuang. The trip to the Dark Millstone was dangerous, and Jian Wushuang wasn't sure what he would go through. Hence, he didn't want King of Venomous Worms to take the risk. He had left King of Venomous Worms in Green Fire World, and had left a drop of inheritance blood essence. He was prepared for the worst. If he were to pass away, King of Venomous Worms could rely on the drop of inheritance blood essence to look for the next ancient god. Fortunately, had done so. Otherwise, when his divine body collapsed and turned into the scattered divine power all over the golden whirlpool, the existence of King of Venomous Worms would be hard to conceal. He most likely would die at the hands of the great emperors from Three Emperors World. Now, although Jian Wushuang didn't have King of Venomous Worms to recover his divine power for him, the constant flow of pure energy within the golden prohibition was stronger by a few folds. In 2 days' time, his divine power completely recovered. Jian Wushuang never once left the golden prohibition, but constantly absorbed the pure energy. His refinery and absorption speed became faster and faster. Like the saying, one who survives a great disaster is destined to good fortune forever after. It is true. Jian Wushuang laughed. He knew clearly that the golden prohibition was absolutely a great opportunity for him. A great opportunity. One should know that the first stage to the 3rd stage in the 6th step of inverse cultivation required an accumulation of enormous divine power. Jian Wushuang put in extravagant time and effort to accumulate his divine power to his extreme limit through Divine Pond of Absolute Beginning, and also via absorbing Star Demon Core. At the 7th step of inverse cultivation, Chaotic Supreme possessed a perfect chaotic divine body that was made of pure divine power. Hence, the divine power required to level up from stage 1 to stage 3 was an enormous amount of accumulated divine power. Now Jian Wushuang was in the Golden Prohibition, and the Golden Prohibition obtained boundless pure energy from the Emperor Supreme Rock. He could continue to enhance his divine power endlessly through absorbing pure energy until he reached the 2nd stage. Chapter 2042 The 2nd Stage of Chaotic Supreme. Jian Wushuang constantly elevated his divine power as he stayed in the Golden Prohibition. The Golden Prohibition was unique to begin with. There was no one who noticed Jian Wushuang in the Golden Prohibition. There were 3 great emperors who continued to stand guard outside the huge golden whirlpool all year round. Occasionally, the 3 great emperors would release their soul power to scan through the golden whirlpool. However, their souls couldn't detect the scenery within the Golden Prohibition. Naturally, they didn't find out about Jian Wushuang. It was even more impossible to see him with naked eyes. Hence, the entire golden whirlpool became peaceful. Jian Wushuang stayed in the Golden Prohibition to refine and absorb divine power aggressively in order to level up his power. But no one knew. As for the Dark Millstone, it wasn't affected at all. It continued to move in eternal chaotic world, and it continued to crush everything. Its size was growing bigger and bigger over time. The experts in eternal chaotic world were preparing at the fastest speed possible. In such a situation, time flew past. In the blink of an eye, 30 years passed. In the Golden Prohibition above the Emperor Supreme Rock, Jian Wushuang, who had been keeping his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. In the instant when he opened his eyes, his aura underwent a drastic change. Previously, he had merely been on the Sir God level. Now he had reached Emperor God realm. I have reached the 2nd stage of Chaotic Supreme. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, and he was filled with excitement. One should know that it had not been long since he had stepped foot onto the 7th step of inverse cultivation. According to ordinary cultivation, he would at least need tens of thousands of years, or even longer before he could get to the 2nd stage. However, he only spent 30 years in the Golden Prohibition before he broke through. This was the opportunity. It could also be described as Jian Wushuang's luck. When Jian Wushuang had reached the 2nd stage of the Chaotic Supreme, his overall power had naturally increased tremendously. First of all, his divine body had been enhanced. Then it was followed by his divine power. From the 1st stage to the 2nd stage, it was a transformation in quality in terms of his divine power. Judging from the strength of his divine power, it was stronger by a few times. Most importantly, the intensity of his divine power had grown. The divine power in the 2nd stage was much more abundant than in the 1st stage. Such abundant divine power represented that his defensibility had increased again. If he was the 1st stage, he could reorganize his divine body 4 times. Then, as his divine body enhanced again, it would be much more difficult to reorganize his power. But his divine power could support him in reorganizing his divine body by 7 or even 8 times. It was even more ridiculous. It was even more terrifying. However, my ancient tribe bloodline didn't improve along with this breakthrough, Jian Wushuang muttered. In between his eyebrows, there were only 8 ancient tribe stars. Jian Wushuang could do nothing about it. Regardless, his power continued to increase tremendously. Before this, I was only in the 1st stage, relying on the pure divine power that I enhanced via the 1st volume of immemorial celestial body I cultivated. In addition to my ancient tribe bloodline power, my power had already far beyond any ordinary great emperor. When I fight head-on, even when I was up against the beast-like bald man from 3 Emperor World, Ling Zong, he was only just my match. Now that my divine power has increased again, in terms of power and strength, there shouldn't be any great emperor from 3 Emperors World who can compare to me favorably. Even if I met the bald man, he couldn't suppress me in terms of strength. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. From the 1st stage to the 2nd stage, His fighting power had transformed in terms of quality. He was absolutely the top among all great emperors. Besides Emperor Bai, there was no one in Sanctuary Alliance who could be his match. Not only was he strong, but his defensive ability was terrifyingly strong. He was almost invincible. If he had to state a flaw of his, it would only be that his comprehension of doctrine was slightly lower. Jian Wushuang was content to have reached such a level in a short time. Jian Wushuang let out a breath of relief and took out a token. The token was naturally Emperor Jiu Qiao's. Emperor Jiu Qiao. Jian Wushuang finally sent a message to Emperor Jiu Qiao. On a remote mountain in Imperial City far away, there was a cave dwelling that had recently been opened. Abysmal Saint Master and Emperor Jiu Qiao had been hiding in the cave dwelling for the past 30 years. When Jian Wushuang sent a message, Emperor Jiu Qiao immediately received it. Sword Emperor. It's a message from Sword Emperor. Emperor Jiu Qiao, who was reclining leisurely, instantly stood up. His eyes were beaming with joy. What? Abysmal Saint Master was instantly shaken too. He looked at Emperor Jiu Qiao and asked, Jiu Qiao, what did you say just now? It's Sword Emperor. Emperor Jiu Qiao was excited. He sent a message. How is this possible? Abysmal Saint Master looked at him in disbelief. Didn't Jian Wushuang die 30 years ago? In such a situation he should have been dead. There was absolutely no chance of survival. Why has he suddenly sent a message after 30 years? Hurry up and ask him, Abysmal Saint Master said. Emperor Jiu Qiao immediately took out a token and asked closely, Sword Emperor, is it really you? You didn't die? Of course I am living well. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. How could it be? How did you escape from such a situation? Emperor Jiu Qiao asked in disbelief. I didn't escape. I am still in Imperial Peak, and I am in the Golden Whirlpool. I used a unique way to fool the great emperors from 3 emperor worlds into thinking that I am dead. As a detailed reason, I could only explain that it is related to a unique ability I have as an inverse cultivator, Jian Wushuang answered. I see. Emperor Jiu Qiao nodded. He knew that inverse cultivators were scary, and they had an extra unique ability in every step. However, he didn't know what ability the 7th step in inverse cultivation had. Regardless, the unique ability that the 7th step in inverse cultivation had seemed to have rescued Jian Wushuang. That's awesome. It's great that you survived. Emperor Jiu Qiao and Abysmal Saint Master were filled with excitement. Then Emperor Jiu Qiao asked, How about Ji Luo? How is she? Great Emperor Ji Luo passed away. I saw her die with my own eyes. She performed the secret skill of Star Palace and Soul Ignition to fight for more time for me, Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. Although Great Emperor Ji Luo wasn't a close friend per se, the 4 of them were comrades in arms that had been through life and death situations. The final decision that Great Emperor Ji Luo had made at the last moment of her life had earned Jian Wushuang's respect. There was no doubt that Great Emperor Ji Luo was a hero that had died for eternal chaotic world. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.